Chapter 216. The 9 huge vines seemed to connect the heavens and the earth as they rapidly closed in on him. This caused Dongbu Shuiying's expression to change. One look and one could tell that these vines possessed boundless strength. It would be troublesome if he were to be entangled by them. Mage. Dongbu Shuiying glanced at the red-robed lady who was standing furthest away. If a powerful transcendent was equipped with powerful equipment and arrays, the threat he could unleash would be comparable to a few transcendent knights of the same level. Repel. Dongbu Shuiying willed. The direction of the gravitational force immediately changed. Originally, the gravitational force was directed towards Dongbu Shuiying, but now it was directed in the opposite direction. The 9 huge vines that were moving at high speed were too huge. Their mass was also much greater. Under the same level of gravitational force, the force produced was too great. Not only were the 9 huge vines unable to get closer, their bodies were also bent backwards. Clearly, the vines themselves were unable to resist the force produced by the gravitational force. Under my gravity domain, the bigger the body, the more disadvantageous it would be. Dongbu Shuiying's speed didn't decrease as he rushed towards the nearest array disk. Under his true meaning of gravity, these vines are truly unable to trap the enemy. The handsome youth, Lai Hua, shook his head. Fortunately, this Dongbu Shuiying only dares to maintain the repulsive force. Although he expected that the effects of this array would be limited, it would be a waste if he didn't activate it. Wang. Another more important array was activated at the same time. For a powerful transcendent wizard, activating 2 magic arrays was a piece of cake. Originally, the long vine array was very important, but under the influence of gravity, it was no longer as important. The second array was more important to the reincarnators of the temporal temple. Countless colorful lights appeared out of nowhere. These colorful lights were like fishes in the water. They swam about in a radius of several tens of kilometers, causing the surroundings to be extremely beautiful. Spatial ripple. Suppress. The handsome youth was using his true meaning to control all the colorful lights. The colorful lights produced by the array were extremely powerful, and they were used to complement his domain-type technique. This caused the power of his move to increase explosively. Under the control of the true meaning, countless colorful lights surged towards Dongbu Shuiying. This caused Dongbu Shuiying's expression to change slightly. Why are there so many colorful lights? The transcendent Do-Chi on the surface of Dongbu Shuiying's body abruptly burst forth, bringing with it the might of the true meaning of stars that shot out in all directions. However, these colorful lights were like flowing water, and when Dongbu Shuiying's fiery red Do-Chi shot out, the colorful lights would disperse without suffering any damage. The colorful light surging in from the surroundings increased rapidly, and the speed of the colorful light was simply too fast. In the blink of an eye, all the colorful light within a radius of several dozen kilometers had gathered within a radius of 10 meters around him. They completely wrapped around themselves. So uncomfortable. Dongbu Shuiying felt as if he was a mortal in water. The true meaning of stars was an extremely defensive true meaning. At the same time, it was also extremely powerful. Every single movement of Dongbu Shuiying could easily break through these colorful lights. However, the countless colorful lights continued to surround him. Even though mortals could easily break through the water, every single movement of theirs would still be met with resistance. At this moment, Dongbu Shuiying was the same. These colorful lights could easily break through, but the resistance was too great. He has been suppressed by me, and his combat power has been greatly reduced. Kill him. The handsome youth, Lai Hua's eyes were filled with anticipation as he transmitted the order. The grade 2 true meaning he grasped was the spatial ripple. It was formed from the combination of the grade 3 true meanings, the true meaning of ripple, the true meaning of heavenly light, and 2 other space-related true meanings. Die. The succubus took out her blood-colored bow, pulled it back and released an arrow. The arrow left behind a blood-colored trail as it flashed past. Transcendence of the Xia people die. The black metal construct male, who did not dare to approach from afar, took out a short spear. His terrifying strength and true meaning were imbued into the short spear, and he abruptly threw it out. In terms of strength, he was the strongest in the team. Kill. The handsome youth also displayed his own technique. So. He punched out with his fists, sending out waves of black flame qi at an astonishing speed towards Dongbu. Of course, as transcendent knights, they were actually the most formidable in close combat. At this moment, their long-range attacks were comparatively weaker. There was no helping it. They were not willing to get close to Dongbu until the very last moment. That was because getting close to him represented the danger of death. The second plan did not include close combat. Die. The red-robed girl took out a dark blue scroll. It was a peak demigod-grade spell scroll. In terms of long-range attacks, transcendent mages were the ones who could display their greatest might. Furthermore, the most important part of the second plan was this half of the deity-grade spell scroll. Hong! The world energy in the surrounding 50 kilometers started surging. At the same time, 8 extremely thin discs appeared out of thin air. These discs seemed to be formed from ice, and their edges were extremely sharp. Xiao xiao xiao. These 8 discs flew towards Dongbu at a frightening speed. They cut through everything in their path, and their might caused Dongbu expression to change. Not good. Dongbu felt the danger of death. He could disregard the attacks of others, but those ice discs were peak demigod-grade spells. If he allowed them to land on his body, they would definitely be able to cut through his body. The purple-robed blade devil stood far away. The demon Gr Luo did not make a move either. One of them was a newbie, while the other was a demon that specialized in close combat. Neither of them had any suitable long-range attacks. The fastest to attack was the handsome youth, Lai Hua's black flame Do Qi, which carried waves of energy as it rapidly attacked. The spear in Dongbu hands easily blocked the incoming transcendent qi. The true meaning of star was, after all, a grade 2 true meaning, just like extreme piercing. Its gravitational force was just a side effect. More importantly, Shui Ying's entire body was like a star. His body's defense was as hard to shake as the earth. Every move he made was like a star smashing down with boundless strength. Thus, under the suppression of the spatial ripple, Dongbu Ying's strength was not as great as these reincarnators thought. It only decreased by about 20%. The spear was blocked. The spear easily blocked the incoming black flame qi. However, a powerful shockwave was still transmitted to Dongbu Ying's hands after being weakened by the stellar fire cloud spear. It then tunneled into his body. However, Dongbu Ying's body was protected by the true meaning of star, allowing him to forcefully block it. If I didn't have any weapons to block it, I'm afraid I would have been injured. Dongbu Ying immediately estimated the power of his opponent's attack. Just a long-range attack and I would still be injured if I took it head-on? His true meaning of star was famous for its powerful defense. Even if he took it head-on, he would still be injured. Furthermore, these colorful ripples are also being suppressed by him. Dongbu Ying glanced at the handsome youth in the distance. He immediately treated him as his most important opponent. Pu-piu. The stellar fire cloud spear moved like lightning. With a simple block, it managed to deflect an arrow and a short spear. Hoo-hoo-hoo. Due to the slow condensation of the spell, the true killing move arrived. One could only see space being sliced apart. 8 ice discs flew toward Shui Ying at high speed from all directions. The power of the attack made Shui Ying's heart tremble. If the handsome youth's long-range attack could injure him, then these ice discs could kill him. Too fast. Dongbu Ying couldn't be bothered with anything else. He flew at high speed and dodged the incoming attacks. However, the 8 ice discs continued to surround him. The red-robed lady's cultivation base was very high, comparable to some demigod mages. Thus, she was still able to control the spells formed from the scrolls with great agility. Block! With all his attention focused on the 8 ice discs, Dongbu Ying didn't dare to be careless. His spear instantly drew an arc in the air as he defended with all his might. Pung! A sound of collision. The stellar fire cloud spear, which carried the true meaning of star, clashed with the ice discs. The ice discs shattered, and Dongbu Ying only felt his hands trembling. A powerful shockwave spread through his entire body. His body was protected by his true meaning and the demigod robe. The shockwave was ultimately just brute force. It didn't pose much of a threat. But the other 7 ice discs arrived as well. This was the most terrifying part of this spell. The 8 ice discs attacked at the same time, surrounding and attacking at the same time. If even one of them failed to block, His life would be in danger. Block block. Dongbu Shuiying defended with all his might. His spear was as fast as lightning, and it formed a series of afterimages. These revolving afterimages of the spear vaguely resembled the stars and the earth revolving slowly. Pung pung pung. A series of collisions rang out. Dongbu Shuiying's heart was in his throat. He displayed all the defensive methods of his spear art. The sharp edges of the ice discs closed in on him time and time again. Pung pung pung. At this time, other than the 8 ice discs, the streaks of black flame battle chi were also coming at him. Dongbu Shuiying relied on his movement technique to dodge. If he couldn't dodge, he took it head-on. His spear was completely focused on defending against the 8 ice discs. As for the other attacks that weren't life-threatening, he temporarily threw them to the back of his mind. One after another, the streaks of black flame battle chi landed on Dongbu Shuiying's body. The true meaning of star, which was famous for its defense, was displaying its might at this moment. Furthermore, there was even a demigod robe protecting his body. Ultimately, the remnant shockwaves only caused Dongbu Shuiying's internal organs to tremble. He could taste blood in his throat, saying it was slow. In reality, it was as fast as lightning. Dongbu Shuiying heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. In that instant, he was finally able to defend against the 8 ice discs. Naturally, there were 12 streaks of black flame battle chi that landed on his body. Fortunately, his true meaning of star was strong enough. With the help of the demigod robe, his internal injuries were still fine. It was just that blood had flowed into his mouth. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Dongbu Shuiying felt much better. The 8 ice discs were truly terrifying. However, Dongbu Shuiying didn't dare to be careless. The coordination of the temporal temple's reincarnators was truly formidable. They were actually able to force him to such a state in an instant. If his defense was slightly weaker, he would have lost his life. End of second watch. Chapter 217. Kill. After dealing with this dangerous situation, Dongbu Shuiying did not dare to hesitate. He immediately charged towards the nearest array disc. As long as he destroyed this array disc, he would be able to use his extreme piercing to appear at any location within a 50-kilometer radius. He would then be able to destroy them one by one. The Temporal Temple's team would no longer be able to surround him. Plan 2 has failed. Plan 3. Let's go all out. The handsome youth's expression was savage. Go all out. Although the black metal man's speed was very slow due to the repulsive force, he still gritted his teeth and charged forward. The succubus demon Jier Luo and the newbie blade devil were all closing in at high speed. Freeze! The red-robed woman looked at Dongbu Shuiying from afar and executed her technique. Dongbu Shuiying only felt his vision turning red. A huge red lotus had already enveloped him. Break! The stellar fire cloud spear spun at a shocking angle. The spear tip pierced the red lotus in front of him. The moment the true meaning of extreme piercing was activated, the red lotus instantly disintegrated. Everyone be careful. His defense is extremely strong. He was able to withstand my shockwave kill 12 times. His defense is stronger than any of us. At the same time, he is also extremely strong. He was able to withstand a peak stage demigod's attack while maintaining his balance. His strength must be terrifying. The handsome youth transmitted a message. At the same time, his speed was the fastest. He was even faster than Dongbu Shuiying. His body flew with a strange undulation, and he was the first to reach Dongbu Shuiying. Demon Jier Luo was the second to reach. Even though Shuiying was already very fast, he was still affected by the red lotus flower. Before he could kill his way to the array disc, he had already met with these two opponents who were continuously attacking him. Scram! The spear lashed out fiercely. The spear handle was like a whip and it was like a shooting star. The handsome youth was wearing gloves on both of his hands. He was able to softly deflect the force. Both of his hands were covered in dense undulations. When his hands clashed with the spear, a terrifying force exploded. What a powerful force! Although he had already expected it, he was still shocked, and his whole body flew backwards. Dongbu Shuiying furrowed his brows. This handsome young man was indeed his biggest enemy. When he swept his spear towards him, he felt as though he was sweeping through the void. He's a human, It's very difficult for him to cultivate an immortal body. As long as we pierce through his skull, I'm afraid he'll die." At the same time, the handsome youth transmitted his voice to the others. "Close combat, pierce through his skull. All right." It was accompanied by a deep roar. Demon Luo's sharp claws turned into claws, which simultaneously enveloped Ying. At the same time, the 5 sharp blades on his gauntlets glowed with a dazzling golden light. These golden lights converged and compressed together, producing a huge change. It was obvious that an extremely violent and ruthless power was accumulating, and it would explode the moment the sharp claws caught its target. Boo! It was too fast. Even though Ying was completely enveloped by a large amount of colorful light, the spatial ripple was suppressing and restricting him. However, his spear thrust was still astonishingly fast. With a rotation, the tip of the spear seemed to be the most terrifying point in the world. Extreme point. Pierce. Pung. When Demon Luo faced this spear, he finally understood how terrifying extreme piercing was. Facing this spear, he couldn't even think of anything else. There was only one thought in his mind: defend against it. Pew, it was too fast. In an instant, Ying thrust his spear 3 times in a row. The first thrust numbed Demon Luo's hands, the second thrust made him flustered, and the third thrust, he could no longer block it, and his head was pierced through. Although the Demon Luo's body was extremely strong, capable of withstanding the attacks of an ordinary Tier 5 demon, Luo's extreme piercing was still no match for it. Extreme piercing is too fast. This scene sent a chill down everyone's spine. Extreme piercing could pierce through the void, and its speed was even faster than the spatial fluctuations. Even though it could no longer pass through the void due to the formation, its speed in the material world did not slow down at all. It was still as terrifying as before. Luo, don't fight him head-on. The handsome teenager transmitted a message. At the same time, his body flashed and he closed in once again. With a wave of his hand, he blocked Ying's spear. Damn it, I've been countered by him. Luo clenched his teeth in dissatisfaction. His true meaning of golden brilliance was also extremely violent and ferocious. Currently, he had even comprehended the true meaning of space edge and was about to fuse it with his true meaning of space edge. What he pursued was that kind of explosive power. As for extreme piercing, its offensive power was also extremely strong. When the two of them clashed, extreme piercing's slight advantage in speed allowed him to obtain victory in just 3 spear strikes. At this moment, the importance of defense could be seen. For example, the handsome teenager's defensive techniques were even better. Even if he was at a disadvantage, he could still hold on and not be defeated in a few moves. Fantasy Domain Descent. The succubus was the third to close in. Her pair of charming eyes were like endless whirlpools. Hua ripple enveloped Ying. Ying's expression changed slightly. In an instant, Luo and the handsome teenager disappeared without a trace. There was no longer a single opponent in the vicinity. All the demons and experts from the temporal temple had disappeared. Fantasy domain? Ying thought. Pulling my consciousness into the fantasy domain? Compared to the mirage, the fantasy domain is really crude. The true meaning of fantasy domain was a grade 4 true meaning. If it were to evolve, there was hope for it to become a grade 3 true meaning, the true meaning of fantasy world. If it were to evolve further, it would be the heaven-defying grade 2 true meaning, the true meaning of mirage. The true meaning of fantasy world and true meaning of illusions were both grade 3 true meanings. They were, in fact, specialized in different aspects. The fantasy domain focused on the word, world. It specialized in dragging the enemy's consciousness into the fantasy domain, causing them to sink into it for eternity. The true meaning of illusions focused on the word, elephant. It allowed one to form many illusion avatars. For example, it could form dozens of Ying. Some of them even had extremely powerful combat power. Both of them represented different directions. Ying had started comprehending the true meaning of mirage from the very beginning. Currently, his embryonic form of the true meaning of mirage had reached its final bottleneck. He only needed to make up for some of the flaws before he could reach large success and grasp the true meaning of mirage. What Ying lacked now were the aspects of the fantasy domain. The fantasy domain of this succubus was also related to the fantasy domain. Furthermore, it was a complete true meaning of fantasy domain. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes brightened when he saw it. He had discovered something that he lacked. Even though Dongbu Shuiying had yet to grasp the true meaning of mirage, he could at least control the mirage. The mirage was the final form of the fantasy domain. Thus, this crude fantasy domain was nothing more than a joke to him. His consciousness has been pulled into the fantasy domain. The handsome teenager saw that Dongbu Shuiying seemed to be stunned. He could not help but be overjoyed. He transmitted a message to the others, "Everyone, hurry up and take action. Before his soul struggles to escape from the fantasy domain, let's take the opportunity to kill him." Pulled into the fantasy domain? Our chance has come. They were all overjoyed. Even though they had a strand of hope, they did not dare to hope for too much. After all, such a heaven-defying transcendent, who could comprehend such a powerful true meaning, should have a strong spirit. It would be extremely difficult to pull a transcendent with such a spirit into the fantasy domain. But who knew? Who knew if Dongbu Shuiying had some flaws in his spirit? There was a saying. There was no true meaning of absolute invincibility. Of course, this saying excluded the possibility of a grade 1 true meaning. A grade 1 true meaning was a truly perfect true meaning. As for the others, they had all sorts of flaws and weaknesses. As long as there was a weakness, it would be targeted. It was not impossible for an expert to die after falling into the fantasy domain due to a flaw in his spirit. Kill. The axe in the black metal-clad male's hand chopped down with all his might, directly striking Dongbu Shuiying's waist. The true meaning of star easily blocked the attack. Dongbu Shuiying seemed to have reflexively stabbed out with the spear in his hand. It was as fast as lightning. Pooh! It directly pierced through the chest of the black metal-clad male. His tyrannical body began to crumble apart. Poopy! Dongbu Shuiying seemed to be frantically attacking his surroundings in panic. One could only see his spear flying about, either furiously stabbing out or whipping out. In an instant, his surroundings were within his attack range. The black metal-clad male's collapsed body floated far away and rapidly recovered. He was also drenched in cold sweat. Your attack just now has caused his body to receive an impact. The handsome teenager Lai Hua transmitted, "Everyone be careful. Although he has been pulled into the fantasy domain, his body and soul are closely connected. If his body receives an impact, he will definitely feel it. He must have realized that he is in the fantasy domain. Even though he is frantically attacking his surroundings in panic, everyone, don't worry. He can't see us. He is a blind man. We have to hurry up and kill him before he escapes from the fantasy domain." Dongbu Shuiying seemed to be frantically attacking his surroundings, but in reality, it was just a disguise. He was carefully observing this simple and crude true meaning of the fantasy domain. Those who were attacking him were all within his observation range. That black metal-clad male's true meaning was the weakest, and his combat power was the weakest. Even Dongbu Shuiying could roughly see through the level of the laws of profound mysteries contained in his axe. It was just like how Sikongyang Palace Lord Chan and the others saw Dongbu Shuiying using the embryonic form of extreme piercing and determined that it was an embryonic form of a grade 2 true meaning. By the same logic, Dongbu Shuiying was able to determine that the black metal-clad male was merely at the stage 2 realm of a grade 4 true meaning. Other than his strength, his comprehension of the laws of profound mysteries was really weak. That was why he had purposely received this attack. Of course, with the defense of the true meaning of star, it could even withstand an attack from a grade 2 true meaning. Ho ho ho, Shuiying was panicking and crazed as he frantically attacked in all directions. However, his mind was still very calm as he observed the situation. Pung pung pung. His extremely fast and berserk attacks coincidentally sent Jier Luo flying once. This caused the blade demon, who was like a stream of lightning, to be heavily injured. Understood. Dongbu Shuiying was suddenly overjoyed. He had finally grasped the final strand of the true meaning of mirage. Chapter 218. Hua. Through the essence of nature, Dongbu Shuiying discovered that behind the real world, there was a corresponding illusory world. It and the real world were like two sides of the same coin. The mirage represented the pinnacle of illusory. Dongbu Shuang, grasping hold of the true meaning of mirage, was just an important step forward. He had only crossed this threshold. From here on, the true meaning of mirage could continue to improve. Stage 2, Stage 3, or even condense a true deity heart. Even so, grasping hold of the initial stage of the true meaning of mirage was already a terrifying deterrent. In the deity world, there was a saying regarding true meanings. One would rather meet an enemy who grasped hold of another grade 2 true meaning than an enemy who grasped hold of the true meaning of mirage. The pure offensive power of the true meaning of mirage was extremely weak, even weaker than many grade 3 true meanings. But it represented the pinnacle of illusory, forming its own world. Experts who grasped hold of it could be considered the most terrifying assassin. Walking in the mirage, killing without leaving a trace, was not an exaggeration. The world around Dongbu Shuang suddenly distorted. His body disappeared from the real world, arriving in the mirage. It was like a mirror of the real world. It looked exactly the same. But with a thought from Dongbu Shuang, everything within the mirage could change. How interesting. Dongbu Shuang walked in this vast mirage. He walked to the side of the black metallic male and patted his face. His palm passed through the mirage and entered the real world, slapping the black metallic male's face. Ah, it's an illusion, an illusion. The black metallic male frantically attacked in all directions. At this moment, all of them, including the demons, had their consciousness pulled into the mirage controlled by Dongbu Shuang. But in the mirage they would see whatever Dongbu Shuang wanted them to see. If he did not want them to see, they would not be able to see. This metal race expert only realized that he had fallen into an illusion after his face was slapped. I walk in the mirage, but I can attack enemies in the real world. Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. Enemies in the real world, unless they have a method to attack the mirage realm, otherwise they won't be able to hurt me. How terrifying. As expected of the pinnacle of illusion, real power is so powerless in front of it. Even if he had the power to destroy the world, if the laws of profound mysteries couldn't attack the mirage, he wouldn't be able to hurt Dongbu Shuang at all. The offensive power of the true meaning of mirage was very weak. But, other than the true meaning of mirage, Dongbu Shuang had also grasped the true meaning of extreme piercing and star. The three great true meanings complemented each other, which was much more powerful and heaven-defying. I can't believe there are two people who can break free from the ethereal realm. Dongbu Shuang glanced at the handsome young man and the red-robed woman not far from them. The red-robed woman was a very powerful sorcerer. Her realm was similar to that of the handsome young man. Another wizard. Sorcerers had extremely high attainments in the aspect of the soul and spirit. It was normal for her to be able to break free from the ethereal realm. However, that handsome young man was actually able to do so as well. This was out of Dongbu Shuang's expectations. Although he had just grasped the true meaning of mirage and was only at the stage 1 realm, it was still extremely difficult for him to break free from it. Let's not waste any more time. Dongbu Shuang walked in the ethereal realm. Although he could control the mirage doppelgangers to kill his enemies, his true body didn't even need to make a move. This was a common move used by experts who grasped the true meaning of mirage. Even if they could attack the ethereal realm, if they couldn't find the true body, they wouldn't be able to injure the experts within the ethereal realm. However, Dongbu Shuang wasn't willing to waste any more time. After all, that handsome young man, Lai Hua, and the red-robed woman had already regained their consciousness. It was better to act as soon as possible. Dongbu Shuang took a step forward and arrived beside the handsome young man. His spear pierced out. The stellar fire cloud spear was as fast as lightning. The spear left the ethereal realm and entered the real world. By the time the spear appeared, it was already at the forehead of the handsome young man. True meaning of extreme piercing. It directly pierced through the protective true meaning of spatial ripple on the surface of his body. Although this true meaning's defense was not bad, it was clearly unable to directly defend against extreme piercing. The handsome young man Lai Hua was terrified. Fortunately, he had a unique treasure in his soul. When his soul was pulled into the ethereal realm, it automatically protected him and helped him break free from the ethereal realm. The handsome young man looked at everything in front of him. In the distance, the succubus girl, the black metal construct male, the newcomer blade devil, and the demons were flying around randomly. Some were attacking the void randomly, while others were fighting to the death. It was as though they were treating each other as enemies. Luckily, Red Leaf is awake. The handsome young man also saw the red-robed woman. In this team, the two of them were the strongest. Who? Before he could think of anything else, his eyes were still looking at the red-robed woman. A spear suddenly appeared in front of his forehead and pierced through his head. His eyes were wide open. Just like that, he died? Zay. If he were to fight against Dongbo Shuiying, who had extreme piercing and the true meaning of star, he could still hold on for a while. However, with the true meaning of extreme piercing, the true meaning of star, and the true meaning of mirage behind him, especially the true meaning of mirage, he was destined to be a terrifying assassin. With just one move, he died on the spot. After all, he was still a human, and he did not have an undying body. One had to know that many demigods of the Xia people did not have an undying body. In order to obtain an undying body, demons and primordial lifeforms had to rely on their innate talent. Alternatively, they could awaken their primordial bloodline once and spend 1 million kilograms of origin stones to forcefully raise their body to the middle stage of the Saint Realm. At this point, they would also have an undying body. Other than that, or perhaps they had grasped a true meaning that had an undying body. The true meaning of spatial ripple obviously did not have an undying body. The true meaning of spatial ripple had a decent defense and could also resist the true meaning of gravity. However, the pure extreme piercing had directly pierced through his head and killed him on the spot. The red-robed lady, Red Leaf, was also extremely shocked. What a terrifying illusion technique. Even with my soul cultivation and spirit cultivation, I could only struggle out of it with all my might. Some of the others were randomly flying around, some were randomly attacking the void, and some were killing each other. Clearly, they were all within the illusion realm. Blazing Flame is awake. Red Leaf also saw the handsome youth in the distance. Suddenly, she looked on in shock. She saw a spear appear from the void, right in front of the handsome youth's forehead. With a pew-chi sound, it pierced through his protective true meaning and pierced through his head. Their team's most outstanding team leader, Blazing Flame, had died just like that. At the same time, the red-robed lady, the black metal construct male, the succubus, and the rookie blade demon all received the same message in their minds. Mission difficulty increased. Mission difficulty increased. Something unexpected happened. Mission difficulty increased to the nightmare grade. When heading to the billions of worlds to train, the members of the Temporal Temple all knew a rule. Be careful not to mess around. Because they had suddenly provoked a terrifying existence, the difficulty of the mission suddenly increased. With the increase in difficulty, the rewards for completing the mission were similarly high. However, if they could not complete the mission, they would be in deep trouble. Thus, when they had a certain level of confidence, it was fine to take some risks for the sake of treasures. However, if they were not confident, the increase in difficulty would be fatal. Nightmare grade? This mission was previously the hard grade. Under normal circumstances, half of the members would die. Above that was the Hell grade mission with a slim chance of survival. Above that was the highest grade, Nightmare grade. Nightmare grade with a slim chance of survival. Chapter 219. How could this be? Nightmare grade? I'm finished. I just got caught by the Temporal Temple and I've already encountered a nightmare grade mission? Are they messing with me? The newbie blade demon was the most depressed. He didn't even have the chance to display his strength and the mission's difficulty had already risen to the nightmare grade. One must know that the Temporal Temple's highest level of mission was the Hell grade. There had to be a sliver of possibility. Only during the actual execution of the mission would there be some unexpected factors that would raise the difficulty to the nightmare grade. Nightmare grade, it's actually the nightmare grade. Seeing the handsome youth's head being pierced, the red-robed lady felt a chill in her heart. Without hesitation, a red talisman appeared in her hand and her soul force drilled into the space-time imprint on her arm. Give up, I give up on the mission. Return immediately. Return immediately. Wang. A mysterious and vast space-time ripple descended and enveloped the red-robed lady. A black-robed youth walked out from the void. It was Dongbo Shuiying. He was frowning as he looked at the red-robed lady who was enveloped by the space-time ripple. Dongbo Shuiying. I'll remember you. I hope we can meet again in the deity world. The red-robed lady's lips moved, but her voice couldn't be transmitted. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness. The value of that red talisman was extremely terrifying. It was given to her by her teacher in the deity world. She had used it to exchange for this red talisman in the temporal temple to protect her life. This red talisman could allow her to give up on any mission before she became a demigod. This was equivalent to a life. Although giving up on the mission would result in failure, the price of failure was still bearable. If she was killed, it would be terrifying. Her soul would be dragged into hell by the temporal temple, and she would have to undergo 3 consecutive hell-grade missions. This red talisman. In the entire team, she was the only one who had it. It was extremely rare for a saint-grade reincarnator to obtain such a red talisman. Interesting. Shuang walked out of the mirage and into the real world to observe the scene in front of him. This mysterious and vast spacetime energy caused Dongbu Shuiying's heart to tremble. The spacetime trembled. If it wished, this energy could destroy the entire Xia people's world. It was too powerful. According to the records, the great existence behind the temporal temple was an existence that stood at the pinnacle of the millions of worlds, the deity world, and the dark abyss. In order for the temporal temple to operate, he had paid a huge price to refine an unimaginably terrifying divine weapon. This divine weapon had its own weapon spirit, and it would act according to the orders of its master. It would either capture the life forms of countless worlds and turn them into reincarnators, give them missions, train them, select them, or provide them with large amounts of resources to help the temporal temple nurture a steady stream of experts. I've long heard that the members of the temporal temple travel across millions of worlds. However, this is the first time I've seen them being carried away by the space-time energy. Dongbu Shuiying smiled as he watched. Hua! The red-robed woman in front of him was wrapped up and instantly teleported out of the mortal world. Dongbu Shuiying didn't even try to attack it. The gap between them was too huge. Perhaps some of the almighty beings in the deity world might be able to deal with this terrifying divine weapon. But he was a transcendent? The difference was too great. Who? Dongbu Shuiying continued walking and disappeared into the mirage. While walking in the mirage, he casually pointed out with his finger. A flame-like transcendent chi flew out and landed beside the rookie blade demon, following which it left the mirage and appeared in the real world. Appearing beside the rookie blade demon, a strand of transcendent chi containing the true meaning of extreme piercing instantly pierced through the rookie blade demon's head. However, when his head was pierced through, his body was affected by the true meaning of extreme piercing, causing his body to start disintegrating. Very quickly, however, the flowing lightning on his body recovered. Undying body? Dongbu Shuiying was slightly shocked. A human saint actually managed to cultivate an undying body? Xiao. Dongbu Shuiying was only stunned for a moment before he casually shot out strands of transcendent chi, attacking the succubus, the metal raceman, the rookie blade demon, Demon Jier Luo, and a few other demons. The rookie blade demon was a human, while the black metallic man was a life form of the metal race. The others were all demons. Spare me, spare me. The black metallic man had long been scared silly by the nightmare grade mission. His soul was screaming, I don't dare to be enemies with my lord anymore. Spare me. Lord Dongbu Shuiying, spare me, spare me. I was forced to do this by the mission. The succubus tried her best to reform her body. Her soul was also begging for mercy. As long as my lord spare my life, I will do anything. I am a succubus and I know how to serve others. I am willing to be your slave. Once the mission was over, they would be forcefully taken away. Hence, they were willing to make any promises. As long as they could live, they were not willing to die. If they died, they would have to complete 3 hell-grade missions consecutively. Moreover, they had to succeed in all 3 missions. If they failed once, their souls would dissipate. Xiao! Strands of transcendent chi shot out in all directions. Dongbu Shuiying watched everything coldly. Spare me. Demons were wantonly slaughtering mortals. Who would spare me? These temporal temple reincarnators didn't hesitate to kill me. Who would spare me? Since they dared to act against me, they would have to bear the consequences. Extreme piercing. Dongbu Shuiying exclaimed in shock. Its attacks are too strong. If I were to use my true meaning of star to attack, I would probably have to kill them thousands or even tens of thousands of times before I could exhaust them to death. The true meaning of star was extremely powerful. It could crush one's body directly. However, it was only able to shatter one's flesh and blood. It was unable to destroy it on the most fundamental level, the particle level. Even an undying body would find it extremely hard to recover from the destruction on the particle level. As long as it was destroyed 8 to 10 times consecutively, one's life force would be completely exhausted. Human, fight me head-on. If you have the guts, fight me head-on. Jie Luo, who was trying his best to reform his body, roared. Unfortunately, Dongbo Shuang couldn't be bothered to waste time with him. Finally, one by one, the demons turned into nothingness. The succubus, the metal race man, and the newbie blade devil had all turned into nothingness. All of them died. Dongbo Shuang looked at the empty surroundings. He looked at the large number of items falling from the sky. These were the items left behind by these demons and reincarnators. Some of the weaker items had already been turned into transcendent materials by the true meaning of extreme piercing. It's over. Dongbo Shuang stood within the mirage. As he looked at everything, he felt an indescribable sense of relief. The assault on the demons' nests had finally ended. Although there were still 2 more nests that he hadn't attacked, the devil generals had already known about it. They had probably retreated long ago. Wang, a space-time ripple enveloped the souls of the succubus and the other 2, instantly sending them to the distant abyss of hell. There, they would experience a cruel hell-ranked mission. Following which, a ripple was transmitted to Dongbo Shuang. Xia people's transcendent Dongbo Shuang, my temporal temple invites you to join us. Are you willing? This ripple emitted a majestic voice. This voice was indifferent and lofty. Chapter 220. Inviting me to join the temporal temple? Dongbo Shuang laughed. The reputation of the temporal temple was too great. Be it the temple of the earth god or the bloodshed tavern, the Xia people, or the elders of the Xia people who came from the deity world. All of these had allowed Dongbo Shuang to understand some of the most basic rules. The temporal temple relied on their control over spacetime to investigate the trillions of worlds, as well as what had happened in the past, of course, because there were too many worlds, the deity world and the dark abyss were too big. Even the temporal temple would only know what had happened in the past if they deliberately investigated a certain place. If they did not investigate, the temporal temple would not know either. Even so, the temporal temple was still the best at unearthing the strength of transcendence. They could discover countless talented transcendents from the trillions of worlds. If they were allowed to forcibly take them away, the temporal temple would have become the sole power in the world. This was something the superpowers of the deity world and the dark abyss did not wish to see. Thus, they had long made an agreement with the temporal temple. The number of people they would capture every year. How many mortals would they capture? How many transcendents would they capture? Both low-grade true meaning and middle-grade true meaning transcendents would have a limit. As for high-grade true meanings, they were still allowed to capture grade 3 true meanings, but the limit was very strict. As for the legendary grade 2 true meanings or the legendary grade 1 true meanings, these transcendents were forbidden from being forcibly taken away. They had to be willing. Invite me. Dongbo Shuang laughed inwardly. The temporal temple was not that polite, but they could only invite him due to the rules. If they could capture him, they would have done so long ago. What a joke. In such a poor place like the Xia people's world, he had grasped hold of 3 grade 2 true meanings at such a young age. If the temporal temple were to nurture him with all their might, there was hope for him to grasp hold of a grade 1 true meaning. A grade 1 true meaning represented the core of the laws of profound mysteries. Dongbo Shuang's current combat power was already heaven-defying, and a grade 1 true meaning would be even more terrifying. Sorry, I refuse, Dongbo Shuang said. Refuse? Are you worried that the mission arranged by my temporal temple is too dangerous? That indifferent voice calmly said, you don't have to worry about this. Your potential is extremely high. My temporal temple will not let a transcendent like you, who is brimming with potential, die so easily. I can make you a Silver Order God emissary, which will give you a lot of authority. The possibility of you dying is very, very low. Dongbo Shuang smiled. He had long known about this point. The transcendence that the temporal temple took the initiative to invite would receive a completely different treatment from those who were forcefully captured. I still refuse. Dongbu Shuang continued. I have no intention of joining the temporal temple. This way I can make you a Golden Order oracle. This is the highest level of grooming. Our temporal temple invites those legendary transcendents with grade 1 true meanings to become Gold Order God emissaries. The indifferent voice continued, You're so young, yet you've already grasped hold of 3 grade 2 true meanings. My temporal temple has many powerful existences, countless resources and countless treasures. I believe you'll definitely be able to grasp hold of a grade 1 true meaning. Furthermore, regarding death, you don't have to worry too much. My temporal temple will protect you with all our might. Even if you die, we will protect your soul and help you reconstruct your body. Gold Order God Emissary. This represented the highest level of treatment. Even if he died, his soul would be protected. There was no helping it. Any apex superpower in the deity world would protect a transcendent who grasped a grade 1 true meaning. They would do their best to protect their lives. How could they take the initiative to let them die? The temporal temple was the same. If Dongbu Shuang were to join them, they would also do their best to protect Dongbu Shuang's life. Even though Dongbu Shuang did not grasp hold of a grade 1 true meaning, but the 3 true meanings Dongbu Shuang grasped, extreme piercing, star and mirage, had complementary effects. If he grasped hold of all 3 offensive true meanings, or if he grasped hold of all 3 balanced true meanings, his combat power would not be comparable to Dongbu Shuang's. Dongbu Shuang's 3 true meanings represented 3 different directions. This was especially true for the mirage, which was extremely difficult to comprehend. Experts who could control the mirage were extremely terrifying assassins. It was just that their attacks were relatively weak. Coupled with the extremely powerful extreme piercing, coupled with the true meaning of star, which was extremely powerful in terms of survivability, it could be said that Dongbu Shuang already had the demeanor of a grade 1 true meaning expert. Even if he did not grasp a grade 1 true meaning in the future, he would still be qualified to be a Gold Order divine emissary. More importantly, he had not gone through too many life and death situations. He had not gone through any crazy grooming. And he was still very young. This caused Dongbu Shuang's potential to be extremely high. For example, that handsome teenager Lai Hua, who died previously, had only grasped hold of a grade 3 true meaning when he was captured. After much grooming, he grasped hold of 4 grade 3 true meanings before evolving it into a grade 2 true meaning, Space Ripple. It could be said that the potential of that handsome teenager Lai Hua had been squeezed out. The threat of death had left them numb. That's right, numb. The fear of death would cause a transcendence life force to erupt. But after experiencing it many times, they would become numb to it. The effects of life and death training would become weaker and weaker, causing them to no longer have any potential. A mere grade 2 true meaning, Space Ripple, might be very precious to the Xia people. But to the apex superpower of the deity world, the temporal temple, they would rather continue squeezing them dry in hopes that they could improve. No matter how many weaklings there were, the help they could provide was limited. Only the birth of a powerful existence would allow the temporal temple to become even stronger. Gold Order Divine Emissary? Dongbu Shuang laughed and shook his head. According to what I know, even with the protection of your temporal temple, you can still be killed by some powerful existences from the deity world. Yes, the indifferent voice calmly said. I am ultimately just a powerful deity weapon that can protect you from many different dimensions. I cannot block all the powerful existences from the deity world, but I will try my best to prevent such a thing from happening. I still refuse, Dongbu Shuang said. Are you afraid of death? The indifferent voice asked. No, Dongbu Shuang said. Freedom? The indifferent voice continued. I can even give you the opportunity to choose some missions. You can head to some of the worlds you wish to visit and experience things that you would never have imagined. Your strength will continue to rise, and your horizons will be broadened. The world you wish to visit will not be a small place like the mortal world, but the boundless heaven and earth of the outside world. I need freedom and time, Dongbu Shuang said. Time? The indifferent voice retorted. For example, if I don't wish to take on any missions for the next 1,000 years and just stay in my hometown, you can't force me. Can you do that? Dongbu Shuang asked. That won't do. You are still young and it has only been a few decades since you were born. Right now is the most important time for you to develop. It is also the best opportunity for you to grasp a grade 1 true meaning. The indifferent voice rejected. The earlier you start cultivating, the more important time is. You cannot waste it. When you become a powerful existence in the deity world, it is fine even if you squander a million years of time. But right now you have to treasure every single year. Our temporal temple has set the rules for grooming. Even though Gold Order emissaries have many privileges, the most basic rules cannot be violated. Then there's no other way. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. After cleaning up the battlefield and collecting the treasures of the dead reincarnators and demons, he tore open the space membrane. Hua Dongbu Shuiying walked out. Very soon many figures flew over from all directions. There were a total of 6 of them. They were faction head Si Kongyang, City Lady Bu, Mountain Lord He Qiu Qi Bai, the Scarlet Robe Shi Yun, and the Cloud City Vice City Lord, the Chubby Chun Yuan. Is it settled? Qiu Qi Bai asked. It's settled. Not a single one was left alive. Dongbu Shuiying replied. How did you get discovered this time? Was there an accident? Si Kongyang was puzzled. It's the temporal temple. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head helplessly. I didn't expect that my raid on the demon's nest would actually be used by the temporal temple to temper their members. Haha, I've long heard of the temporal temple's great name. But after living for over 1,000 years, I've never met anyone from the temporal temple. Chun Yuan beamed. City Lady Bu was also smiling at Dongbu Shuiying. City Lady Bu was extremely beautiful, but she had a domineering air about her. At this moment, the corners of her mouth were curled up as she looked at Dongbu Shuiying with a smile. Everyone present was in an extremely good mood. The way they looked at Dongbu Shuiying was slightly different. Dongbu, you should know that you've saved half of the transcendence of our Xia people. Shi Yun said. This contribution is truly great. Mountain Lord He also praised. Now that the news has started to spread, it won't be long before all the transcendence of our Xia people know about this. Qiu Qi Bai said, at that time, many transcendents will be grateful to you. Haha, your communication wristband will definitely be very busy. What about the other 2 demon lairs? Dongbu Shuiying asked. We've also sent demigods to try and surround them. The demons from those 2 lairs have indeed retreated in different directions. We only managed to kill 2 of them by a fluke. We didn't meet the others, Qiu Qi Bai explained. Dongbu Shuiying wasn't surprised. This was all within his expectations. After bidding farewell to the demigods, Dongbu Shuiying rushed back to his hometown. Junior brother Snow Eagle, you've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning? Amazing, haha, I admire you. Junior brother Snow Eagle, I'm Zhua Yi. You're too amazing. You've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, and you've even saved many transcendents of our Xia people. There aren't many people I admire, but you're the one I admire the most. You're too amazing. Little brother Snow Eagle, you've eradicated 3 demon lairs? That's amazing. In a few days I'll go to Snowrock Mountain to find you for a drink. Don't look down on this, sister. Several transcendents had already sent messages to Dongbu Shuiying. Who? Dongbu Shuiying appeared in the sky above Snowrock Mountain. With a single glance, he saw a green-robed girl standing on the roof of Snowrock Castle. Why did she reject the temporal temple? Because her goal was different. Perhaps other transcendents would pursue their own strength and become a deity. But he was different. What he pursued was to protect the people he loved and the people who loved him. The girl in front of him, his little brother, his father, and his mother. All of them were worthy of him using his life to protect them. Cultivation was important, but compared to his loved ones it wasn't worth mentioning. His cultivation was also for the sake of protecting his loved ones. If he were to waste his time on adventuring in the millions of worlds, pursuing his so-called strength and leaving his family, it would be putting the cart before the horse. If he were to live for tens of thousands of years, he would become an extremely powerful existence. But by then, his family would no longer be around and he would be a loner. So what if he was powerful? Even if he was powerful, he would still be a loner. Furthermore, so what if he could accompany his loved ones in the mortal world? He could still become stronger and stronger. Hadn't he already grasped hold of 3 different grade 2 true meanings? Jingqiu. Dongbu Shuiying landed. Crystal tears could be seen in Jingqiu's eyes. She already knew what had happened. Currently, the news had spread like wildfire amongst the Transcendents. Even though she saw Dongbu Shuiying standing in front of her, she still felt a lingering fear when she thought about how she had risked her life to attack the demon's nest. But she understood that for the sake of the Xia people, it was not wrong to do so. Jingqiu hugged Dongbu Shuiying tightly. Dongbu Shuiying was startled. He could feel Jingqiu's emotions. His heart warmed and he revealed a smile. This was what he was willing to use his life to protect. End of the chapter. Chapter 221. Dongbu Shuiying killed his way into the minor transcendent world alone, wiping out 3 demon nests and causing the other 2 to flee. From then on, the situation in the Xia people's world was completely reversed. Before this, a large number of demons were hiding in various places. They were very confident. This was because they could report to their superiors to summon the demonic avatars of rank 5 demons. Even if the Xia people's demigods chased after them, the demonic avatars of rank 5 demons would still dare to wantonly kill. After all, they were just avatars. Even if they were destroyed, they could recover after 2 to 3 years of rest. But now it was different. They no longer had any helpers. Even if they reported to their superiors, would the demon generals dare to save them? They did not dare. The majority of the demons were still the weaker rank 1 and 2 demons. They were the main force that discovered the Xia people's transcendence. But if they did not have any helpers, it would be very difficult for them to kill the Xia people's transcendence in a single breath. After all, other than the new transcendents, the weakest Xia people's transcendents were at the peak of the sky realm. Coupled with their transcendent weapons, they were confident of fighting against a rank 2 demon for a single breath. Some with a higher realm could even counterattack. Haha! Those 5 demon generals must be furious and want to kill you. Within the Infernal Palace, Palace Lord Chun was walking side by side with Dongbu Shuiying. Today was already the 3rd day of the battle. As long as they have the ability, they can come. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. Only with power would one be able to be confident. The outside world only knew that he had grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, but in reality he had 3. Especially after grasping hold of the true meaning of mirage, wanting to kill him would become an extremely difficult task. Because Dongbu Shuiying could enter the mirage with a single thought. Haha, you should have this heroic spirit. Palace Lord Chun sighed. Snow Eagle, you've really helped me a lot. In the past few years, I watched as the Xia people's transcendence died one after another. I was anxious but helpless. Now that you've eradicated those demon nests, you've eliminated the greatest threat to the Xia people. Although the following battle will be very long, the threat has been greatly reduced. Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head. This time, I've invited you here to tell you something. After all, you've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, and your status within the Xia people has greatly increased. Even though you're not an elder, there's no difference. As Palace Lord Chun spoke, he stretched out his hand and a gold-leafed book appeared out of thin air. Next, the gold-leafed book flew towards Dongbu Shuiying. This book records many secrets of the Xia people. Oh! Dongbu Shuiying's eyes lit up and he immediately took a closer look at it. Amazing! The Xia people were able to stand tall in the mortal world until now, and they were even the overlords of this mortal world. His foundation was really deep. There were many secrets that even Sky Realm Transcendents and Saint Realm Transcendents did not have the qualifications to know. Even demigods like the Terrene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern did not have the right to know. Dongbu Shuiying was still a Saint Realm Transcendent. However, now that he had grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, nobody would treat him as a saint. All the demigods would treat him as an equal. So that's the case. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes lit up. Who would have thought that our Xia people would be able to contact our ancestors in the deity world? Those demonic gods could send down their world projections. Our Xia people's ancestors also had some powerful deities who could send down their world projections. Palace Lord Chun sighed. These ancestors had always been thinking about their hometown, which was why they did not care about the rewards and the price they had to pay. In fact, when our Xia people had once faced a difficult situation, it was the ancestors of the Xia people in the deity world who thought of ways to help us get through it. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. After reading it, he gained a deeper understanding of the deep foundation of the Xia people. In fact, Dongbu Shuang had seen some of the clan protection deity weapons in the dossiers of the demigods. These can only be considered as 90% of our secrets. Previously, we were forbidden from telling you. Perhaps you have learned a thing or two from other sources. Palace Lord Chen laughed. There are also some core secrets that only the palace lords have the right to know. This is to prevent them from leaking out. The demonic faction will always be able to infiltrate through any openings. I understand. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. If the enemy knew all the secrets of the Xia people, then destroying the Xia people would be several times easier. Secrecy was a must. Regarding the 3 demon nests that you have eradicated, Palace Lord Chun said, you have killed 9 rank 5 demons, as well as many rank 4 and 3 demons. I will give you 1,000,000 contribution points. A normal reward for killing a rank 5 demon would range from 50,000 to 100,000 contribution points. You have helped the Xia people to eradicate this huge threat. I will also give you 1,000,000 contribution points. That will be a total of 2,000,000 contribution points. How about it? Palace Lord Chen asked. Even if he didn't kill a single demon, as long as he could force the 5 demon nests to retreat and eliminate this threat, it would be an incomparably huge contribution. If he really wanted to calculate the value, it was impossible to calculate. Even if it was 10,000,000 contribution points, it would still be worth it. After all, it was the life of half of the Xia people's transcendence. One must know that the Saint-class Transcendent Qi doppelganger that was sent out previously had brought along a few demigod scrolls and other treasures. These treasures added up to a total of 1,000,000 contribution points. And this was just a test. That's too much, Dongbu Shuang said. Perhaps only the top 10 demigods on the demigod rankings would have such a huge net worth. It's not much. Actually, it's still too little. Palace Lord Chan suddenly hesitated. Snow Eagle, these 2,000,000 contribution points of yours, don't tell me you want origin stones? If you want origin stones, I, the Xia people, can help you exchange for 2,000,000 kilograms of origin stones. No need, no need, Dongbu Shuang said. Too extravagant. According to the rules of the Xia people, the most demigods of the Xia people could exchange for origin stones was 1,000,000 kilograms. Want more? If you have the ability, get the other demigods to sell you origin stones. Or go to the minor or major transcendent worlds to dig for origin stones. In any case, the Xia people could not provide so many origin stones, because the total amount of origin stones was limited. There were only so many origin stones. If they gave too much to a demigod, the other demigods would not have enough. Even so, many demigods would rather spend their time to slowly cultivate and absorb the energy from the heavens and earth. Just like body cultivation. For a sky peak to Saint Primary, it required 50,000 kilograms of origin stones. Dongbu Shuiying's current body was that of a Saint Primary. And for a Saint Primary to middle, it required a terrifying 2,000,000 kilograms of origin stones. From Saint Middle to Saint Primary, the amount of origin stones required would not be enough even if all the transcendent worlds around the Xia people's world were dug up. This was something passed down from the deity world. Thus, the so-called Saint Primary's body would definitely undergo a second awakening, was just a dream to the mortals. It could only be realized in the deity world or the dark abyss. The Xia people did not have many origin stones saved up now. Using contribution points to exchange for weapons, exchanging for treasures, exchanging for mage equipment, exchanging for refiner organisms, these Xia people could all smile and nod their heads. But exchanging for origin stones? The Xia people would have to calculate. Others can't, but you can. Palace Lord Chan said. You have contributed so much and grasped a grade 2 true meaning. We, the Xia people, can make an exception for you. This way, your body will be able to reach the middle stage of the Saint Primary, greatly increasing the chances of you undergoing a second awakening. Your combat power will also become stronger. No need, there's really no need, Dongbu Shuang said. He was already prepared to challenge the Black Wind Deity Palace. After completing the challenge, he would also sweep through the major transcendent worlds connected to the Black Wind Deity Palace. A major transcendent world was a huge treasure trove. If he really wanted origin stones, he could just go and dig them up himself. Why should he let the Xia people dig out 1 million kilograms of origin stones for him? Seeing the hesitant look on Palace Lord Chen's face, it was clear that he felt heartache. It was not easy being a leader. The 8th chapter, Black Wind Deity Palace, begins. Star. Chapter 222. You decide. I will not force you. Palace Lord Chen nodded. Dongwu Shuiying hesitated. Palace Lord Chen, the deity world warrior that I carry with me is not necessary. Even without it, I can protect myself with my own strength. I can lend this deity world warrior to my junior sister Jingqiu temporarily. Is that all right? No need, no need. Palace Lord Chen laughed. I really do not know what to say about the two of you. If your junior sister Jingqiu becomes a demigod in the future, her strength will not be inferior to yours. If you do not work hard enough, she might even be stronger than you. Oh, Dongwu Shuiying was shocked. If I do not work hard, she might be stronger than me? Jingqiu, he did not notice. Although Jingqiu was quite talented in cultivation, she could not be said to be outstanding. As long as she becomes a demigod, she will be able to wield the strongest deity weapon of the Xia people. Palace Lord Chen did not hide anything. When that time comes, her strength will be able to suppress all demigods, and she will have the strength of a god. The strongest deity weapon? Senior Shui? Dongwu Shuiying was shocked. He had read about this deity weapon in the Xia people's secret book. Palace Lord Chen nodded. That is why one of the protective treasures I gave her is a deity world warrior. It is just that Jingqiu does not know about it. Dongwu Shuiying heaved a sigh of relief. That was great. The treasure that Palace Lord Chen had given him back then contained a disguised deity world warrior. Jingqiu had one too. Senior Shui? Dongwu Shuiying was shocked. In the future, with his own true meaning, he would be able to defeat all demigods and stand at the top of the Xia people's world. He would even be able to match the strength of a god. Jingqiu would be able to rely on the strongest deity weapon. With the power of that terrifying divine artifact, it was enough to suppress an entire era. So you have to work hard. Don't let your woman surpass you. That would be embarrassing, Palace Lord Chen joked. Not at all, not at all. Dongwu Shuiying was in a good mood. You have to help her too. Don't delay her cultivation. Although we, the Xia people, have secretly provided her with many resources, it is still too difficult for her to become a demigod, said Palace Lord Chen. If she doesn't become a demigod, she won't be able to use that strongest divine artifact. Understood. Dongwu Shuiying was completely at ease. With a celestial realm warrior protecting Jingqiu in the dark, Jingqiu would not be in any danger when searching for the demon outside. Palace Lord Chen, I want to know more about the Black Wind Deity Palace and its master. Dongwu Shuiying suddenly said. With his strength he should have a higher chance. Naturally, he had to go and explore this Black Wind Deity Palace. Black Wind Deity Palace? Palace Lord Chen was stunned for a while before he reacted. Oh, it's the Black Wind Deity Palace that is very close to your Snowrock Castle? I remember that when you were a legend ranker, you fell into that Black Wind abyss, right? Dongwu Shuiying nodded. No wonder you are so curious about it. Why do you want to try it? Asked Palace Lord Chen. I'll give it a try. I've heard that no transcendents have ever succeeded, said Dongwu Shuiying. Yes, Palace Lord Chen said. Many transcendents have tried. Ever since the Black Wind ancestor created the deity palace, not a single transcendent has succeeded. He's dead, so no one can break the array he left behind? Dongwu Shuiying didn't really understand back then. Only now did he understand how powerful the Black Wind Palace Lord was. A dead demigod mage of the Xia people had left behind a deity palace array that even the transcendents who came after him could not break. Palace Lord Chen laughed. It's a bit embarrassing, but Ancestor Black Wind is indeed an extremely powerful demigod mage. If he were to live in this era, he would be an existence that could suppress an entire era. His combat power is much higher than Mountain Lord He's. In terms of spells, arrays, refiner puppets, and many other aspects, he has reached an extremely high level. You can go and try, and you will know how hard it is to break the deity palace. I've seen Ancestor Black Wind's dossier. He only grasped hold of a grade 3 true meaning, so how could he be so powerful? I've looked through it carefully, and it seems that some parts of the dossier were skipped over? Dongbu Shuiying asked. He's a mage after all. Using the same true meaning and the laws of profound mysteries of the true meaning to construct spells, there are differences in power. Ancestor Black Wind was an extremely amazing mage. Skipped over? That's because he had some fortuitous encounters. Back then, his combat power had reached an unparalleled level. But he could not become a god. That's why he did something crazy, causing his combat power to increase once again. However, some of the secrets related to the Xia people were skipped over. Palace Lord Chan said. You can't tell me? Dongbu Shuiying asked. I can't, Palace Lord Chen said. Dongbu Shuiying curled his lips. He did something crazy? What exactly was it that even with his current status, Palace Lord Chen was not willing to tell him? Palace Lord Chen laughed. If you want to try, you have to be careful. Although Ancestor Black Wind set up a trap to not kill the transcendence of the Xia people, sometimes the power is too great, and if you're not careful you can still lose your life. I know. Dongbu Shuiying was very relaxed. Firstly, Ancestor Black Wind did not have any killing intent towards the transcendence of the Xia people. Secondly, he had the mirage. He did not believe that the techniques left behind by the dead demigod mage would be able to harm him in the mirage. If you succeed, and if you discover a treasure that will be of great help to the Xia people, Palace Lord Chan hesitated for a moment before saying solemnly, something that won't be of much use to you. You can exchange it with the Xia people. A treasure that will be of great help to the Xia people? Dongbu Shuiying was puzzled. You've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning. Even if you don't succeed this time, you'll have a high chance of succeeding in the future. Palace Lord Chun said. You'll understand when you break into the Black Wind Deity Palace. According to what I know, the treasures of the Black Wind Deity Palace are definitely extraordinary. If not for the fact that taking it by force might trigger some self-destruction, the previous two great emperors would have long taken it. Amen. Dongbu Shuiying became even more curious. Palace Lord Chun did not elaborate further. What exactly did the Black Wind Deity Palace have? After bidding farewell to Palace Lord Chun, Dongbu Shuiying went to the Water Taoist faction and bought nearly 20,000 contribution points worth of various treasures. They were all prepared for his parents, little brother, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. They could also be used by the descendants of his clan. As for weapons and armor, demigod weapons were of little help to Dongbu Shuiying. Middle-grade demigod or top-grade demigod weapons were no different to him. Secondly, the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear was a weapon that was extremely suitable for him. This was because it did not have any runes on it. Why were other top-grade demigod weapons so powerful? It was because they had many runes that could unleash many unique powers. But the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear did not have any runes on it. It relied purely on the material it was made of. It was classified as a middle-grade demigod weapon. Thus, in the eyes of the Xia people, this was an extremely wasteful and extravagant thing. It was said that it was left behind by an alien who died. Just by relying on its material, it was already so powerful. Its material was even more precious than top-grade demigod weapons. Extreme Piercing, the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear, was the most suitable weapon for material rejection. It could pierce through those demigod weapons and create a hole in them. After the new year, it was early spring and it was still very cold. At least in the Water Rights town, there was still snow everywhere. A young man and woman were flying side by side in the sky. Back then I was chased by Xiang Pengyun while escaping. Of course I was the one who escaped. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu were flying along the same route that they used to escape. Back then it was really dangerous. If I had really fought on Snowrock Mountain, I'm afraid I would have died in the hands of Xiang Pengyun. After all, his true identity is that of a mutated demonic beast. Look, that's the Black Wind Cliff. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu flew towards the Black Wind Cliff. I know. Senior Snow Eagle, you fell from the Black Wind Cliff. Jing Qiu also flew above the Black Wind Abyss and looked carefully. The huge black wind formed a whirlpool that spanned over a few thousand meters. Furthermore, this was only the outermost part of the whirlpool. The lower it was, the stronger the whirlpool became. Back then it was also luck. Dongbo Shuang also looked at the whirlpool. He had experienced a life-and-death situation here. What luck! If not for the crevice at the bottom of the valley, allowing him to sneak into the underground hall, he would have starved to death. It's not enough to rely on luck without strength. Jing Qiu was dressed in a thick white robe. She said worriedly, "Senior Snow Eagle, you have to be careful this time." "Don't worry, I have the deity warrior." Dongbo Shuang laughed. "Even if you don't believe me, you have to believe the deity warrior." "I believe you." Jing Qiu nodded. It's never wrong to be careful. While the two were talking, "You two little fellows, why are you chattering on top of my head? Why don't you hide further away?" Suddenly, a powerful aura approached from below. Within the black wind, a huge silhouette could be vaguely seen. Following that, a huge black dragon's head popped out. Its huge golden eyes were staring angrily at the two figures standing above the whirlpool. In the eyes of this black dragon, they were just two ordinary transcendents. "Long time no see." Dongbo Shuang smiled. "You are?" The black dragon's golden eyes were filled with doubt. It couldn't remember who this black-robed young man was. "Do you still remember the mortal young man who fell from the black wind abyss 50 years ago?" Dongbo Shuang smiled. Back then, this black dragon caused him to feel suffocated and terrified. But now, he could tell with a single glance that this black dragon was a powerful demigod refiner organism. Chapter 223. Correction. Jing Qiu is still a peak sky realm transcendent, not a saint. The previous text has been corrected. If the guardian of the outermost perimeter of the Black Wind Deity Palace was already so strong, what about the bottom of the valley? What about the deepest parts of the Deity Palace? No wonder not a single transcendent was able to break through it in the past tens of thousands of years. Shuang knew that there was still a huge gap between his combat power and that of the current number one under the heavens mountain lord He. He could only give it a try by relying on his 3 grade 2 true meanings. Regardless of success or failure, he would still be able to enter the underground palace and enter the major transcendent world through the crack in the valley. 50 years ago? The black dragon's huge golden eyes were filled with doubt. I still have some impression of it. Back then, a black youth was like a phantom, engulfed by the black wind vortex and falling at high speed. Through the dense black wind, the black dragon had indeed caught a glimpse of him. And it was indeed you. The black dragon carefully examined Dongbo Shuiying's facial features before laughing. Haha. Who would have thought that in just 50 years, a mortal would become a peak saint transcendent? Fortunately, you did not attack me. Otherwise, I would have died without any ability to resist. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. I will not attack a mortal. Master's orders are aimed at transcendence. The huge black dragon said, Why, now that you have become a saint transcendent, you want to charge in? I do want to try. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. Brat, you should hide further away. Go to the Xia capital and investigate the background of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Black Wind Deity Palace isn't a place that any transcendent can barge into. Even if I don't want to kill you, if I accidentally use too much strength, I'm afraid that the aftermath of my attack will kill you. The black dragon deliberately emitted an aura, causing the entire black wind vortex to tremble. That genius of your Xia people is called Qiu Qi Bai. He could not defeat me even when he was a saint. Even after becoming a demigod and wielding a deity weapon, although he won against me, I am only the outermost perimeter guardian. The powerful guardian within the Black Wind Deity Palace can easily defeat him. That bit of strength of his is still far from enough. Even he was defeated. Tell me, how can a little saint like you win? Black Dragon Head asked. But I still want to give it a try. Dongbo Shuiying grinned. Roar, you a saint-ranked transcendent? You can't even beat me. Come. I'll let you try. The black dragon's head let out a low roar, its voice causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. The power of the sound waves caused Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu's expressions to change slightly. What terrifying strength! Just the sound waves alone are already so powerful. Jing Qiu was shocked. In terms of pure strength, I'm afraid he's at the peak of the demigod level. Dongbo Shuiying nodded as well. He's so strong, and he's only at the outermost perimeter guardian? Jing Qiu exclaimed in admiration at the Black Wind ancestor's generosity. She was also a transcendent sorcerer, and when Dongbu Shuiying told her that he wanted to enter the Black Wind deity palace, she specially investigated the relevant information and was shocked. Senior brother Snow Eagle, you have to be careful. This Black Wind ancestor is a sorcerer that's close to the level of a deity. Sorcerers are meticulous, and the methods he left behind can render transcendents who have existed for hundreds of thousands of years helpless. Don't worry, just wait outside. Dongbu Shuiying was extremely confident. Jing Qiu immediately flew backwards, directly to the edge of the Black Wind cliff, and stood at the edge of the cliff to observe everything. The Black Wind abyss was very wide, at least a few thousand meters wide. The Black Wind vortex that enveloped the area was incomparably turbulent. The Black Dragon's head was like a small mountain tens of meters tall. Brat, do you really want to try? This is fatal. The Black Dragon's head let out a vigorous voice. I'll give it a try. Dongbu Shuiying looked down. Tell me your name. The Black Dragon's head said. He had also started to re-evaluate Dongbu Shuiying. Those who dared to give it a try were extremely stupid. Most of them had some tricks up their sleeves. My name is Dongbu Shuiying. Very good. Boom. Amidst the dense black wind, a huge figure could be seen rising rapidly. The Black Dragon's over 1,000 meters long body was fully revealed. At this moment it was coiled up, and its huge golden eyes were staring at Dongbu Shuiying. Its ferocious aura was completely unleashed, causing Dongbu Shuiying to feel a slight sense of pressure. What great strength! Dongbu Shuiying exclaimed. The difference between the height of an ordinary human and 1,000 meters long Black Dragon was simply too huge. In front of the Black Dragon, Dongbu Shuiying was like a tiny speck. The Black Dragon's huge body also gave the Black Dragon immense strength. Even Qiu Qibai, who specialized in offense, was defeated by this Black Dragon when he was still a saint. Perhaps the Black Dragon was weak in many aspects such as techniques and realm. However, just the strength of a peak demigod was enough to stop many transcendents. And this was only the outermost layer of defense. Come! The huge Black Dragon soared into the sky, and its huge head was already at the same level as the Black Wind cliff. It looked down at the tiny Dongbu Shuiying, and its golden eyes were filled with rage. Following that, it swooped down and bit down on Dongbu Shuiying. It's starting! Jing Qiu, who was watching the battle from the cliff, was incomparably nervous. The Black Dragon's aura was too strong. Shuiying watched as the Black Dragon swooped down towards him, especially the incomparably sharp teeth within its ferocious mouth. As a demigod refiner organism, the toughness of the materials used to construct them was terrifying. However, Dongbu Shuiying was not in a hurry to dodge. Instead, he calmly stood in midair and watched as the ferocious mouth closed in on him. The Black Dragon was puzzled. Why wasn't he dodging? Was he going to fight it head-on? A saint transcendent dared to fight it head-on? Wasn't he looking for trouble? Expel! Dongbu Shuiying suddenly shouted. Wang! A formless domain of laws of profound mysteries immediately enveloped the huge Black Dragon that swooped down. The huge Black Dragon's body suddenly tensed up, as though an invisible force had enveloped every single part of its body. Following that, the huge Black Dragon was sent flying backwards. Although its body was twisting and struggling, it was still unable to withstand this invisible force. It flew backwards at high speed. Boom! With a loud bang, the 1,000-meter-long Black Dragon was directly flattened into the side of the Black Wind abyss like a pancake, stuck tightly to the side. Its body was still struggling, but it was unable to break free from the cliff. True meaning of star gravity domain. Jing Qiu looked at the scene in front of her in shock. Her senior brother Snow Eagle did not even see him move, but that domineering huge Black Dragon had already been smashed onto the cliff of the Black Wind abyss. Fortunately, the cliff of the Black Wind abyss was protected by a formation. Otherwise, with such a force, any ordinary mountain would have collapsed. What's going on? This is... The Black Dragon's body was twisting and struggling, but it was unable to break free from the cliff. That formless gravitational force was simply too strong. You've lost. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. The gravity domain could cover an area of 100 li around him, but it was similar to extreme piercing, which could cover both close and far distances. The range of the gravity domain was also controllable. Simply put, the area covered by the laws of profound mysteries was the gravity domain. The maximum area covered by the laws of profound mysteries was 100 li away from him. In order to prevent too many mortals from dying, Dongbu Shuang only covered the area around him and the huge black dragon. If the gravity domain was used against human demigods, it would not have such heaven-defying power. But who asked this black dragon to be so huge? Its body was 1,000 meters long. Hence, under the same gravity, the repulsive force he felt was much stronger than that of a human demigod. Even though he had the strength of a peak-stage demigod, he was still fiercely repulsed by the gravity domain, and he was unable to break free. The black dragon was infuriated, but he was helpless against this repulsive force. His huge golden eyes were filled with unwillingness and helplessness as he let out a low roar. I've lost. Wang. With a thought, Dongbu Shuang retracted the gravity domain. Only then did the black dragon regain its freedom from the cliff. It was really uncomfortable to be pressed against the cliff just now. Kid, don't be too happy. I didn't expect you to have such a strange true meaning of gravity. The black dragon was somewhat unhappy. It was too embarrassing to be defeated by a saint-class transcendent. This true meaning of gravity happens to restrain me. However, this gravity domain is useless in battle. I'm only the first layer of protection. The other protectors in the Black Wind Deity Palace are much more dangerous. Thank you for your reminder. Dongbu Shuang laughed. He raised his head and looked at Jingqiu, who was on the Black Wind Cliff. Jingqiu, wait for me here. I'll go down and see how powerful this Black Wind Deity Palace is. Senior brother Snow Eagle, be careful, Jingqiu said. At the same time, she was inwardly surprised. Didn't her senior brother have grasped hold of the grade 2 true meaning of piercing? Since when had he grasped hold of the true meaning of gravity? She also understood that Dongbu Shuang was displaying it in front of her because he trusted her. South Dongbu Shuang rapidly dove downwards. The power of the Black Wind Maelstrom was like a light breeze to the current him. It did not affect him in the slightest. I've actually been defeated by a saint-class transcendent. The black dragon still could not accept it. He was just a mortal 50 years ago. That year, he glanced at that mortal young man who fell from the sky and did not care about him at all. In his eyes, mortals were as weak as ants. Who would have thought that he would be suppressed to the point where he could not even struggle free from the cliff? His luck is good and he just happened to restrain me. In a while he's going to suffer. I have to go down and take a look. The black dragon's huge body immediately swung its body and flew downwards. Chapter 224. Bang! Dongbu Shuang flew downwards at high speed like a sharp sword. The huge black dragon behind him followed suit. The two of them flew one after the other. A human transcendent. He seems to be only a saint-ranked transcendent. How can he be so reckless? Even the black dragon has been defeated? You guys didn't see it earlier, but I saw it clearly. That black-robed young man didn't even move in mid-air. The black dragon was suppressed and couldn't resist at all. Some refiner organisms living in the Black Wind Abyss conversed with each other. Their strength was much weaker. Most of them were saint-ranked refiner organisms. Since the black dragon had been defeated, they naturally didn't dare to resist. They continued flying downwards. This Black Wind Abyss was very deep. As they continued to descend, they had already entered the ground. When I saw these transcendent refiner organisms in the past, I felt that they were all terrifyingly strong. Dongbu Shuang sighed. From the looks of it, other than the black dragon, which is a demigod, the rest are all saint-ranked transcendents. As for the soldiers and generals formed by the array, they don't even have any intelligence. They only have the most basic of instincts. Their strength is even weaker. Back when he was still a legend ranker, he had relied on the flames of myriad things to kill a black armored soldier. Those black armored soldiers and generals who only had instincts had ice-cold eyes. They didn't have a trace of emotion as they charged towards Dongbu Shuang without any fear of death. Dongbu Shuang directly released the true meaning of gravity. The terrifying gravitational force acted on the black armored soldiers and generals. Those weaker black-armored soldiers instantly disintegrated. As for the generals, they also started to disintegrate as they flew backwards. And after disintegration they turned into black fog. The black fog floated in the surroundings and even tried to condense again. However, under the might of the gravitational force, it was unable to condense into a solid form. Dongbu Shuiying finally landed silently at the bottom of the valley. He turned his head and looked not far away. There was a huge pit on the ground. It was the same pit that he had fallen into when he was a legend ranker. Let's go take a look at the Black Wind Deity Palace. Shuiying immediately took a step forward. Everywhere he passed, under the repulsive force of gravity, all the black armored protectors roared and charged over, regardless of whether they were soldiers or commanders, were all turned into black fog. So strong. What kind of invisible power is this human transcendent using? This should be the gravity true meaning. The alchemy creatures muttered as they followed and watched from afar. Only the black dragon flew at the front, following closely behind Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying also glanced at the alchemy creatures behind him and said, Ancestor Black Wind really made a lot of alchemy creatures. There were more than 10 martial saints and 1 demigod, and this was just outside the divine palace. Where did he get so many alchemy creatures, especially the black dragon, which is so big? How many materials did he use? In the Xia people, there were quite a number of transcendent alchemy organisms. For example, the 100 Battles Chamber had a total of 100 of them. However, they were generally smaller in size. The materials used for Sky Realm refinement organisms were relatively poor, so they might be willing to make them a little bigger. But for a demigod refinement organism to be 1,000 meters long? Palace Lord Chun didn't tell me much either. Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself, this Black Wind Divine Palace must have some huge secrets. As he walked, he soon arrived in front of a majestic cave-dwelling palace. The cave-dwelling palace was emitting a misty green light, and the patrolling black armored guards had all been disintegrated into black fog by the gravity. No one dared to obstruct him. The majestic entrance of the palace was 100 meters tall, and it was completely green in color. Open! Dongbu Shuiying waved his hand. Boom! A dazzling fiery red transcendent battle chi formed a huge palm that was tens of meters long. This huge palm was extremely ferocious, and its surface was covered with a layer of star true meaning. In terms of strength, the star true meaning was famous. It was as though a star had smashed out. However, it was most suitable to be used to open the door. Following a loud sound, the huge palm slammed onto the dark green palace door. Following the loud sound, the 2 doors were pushed open, revealing the scene within. The interior of the cave-dwelling palace was filled with white fog. White fog! Dongbu Shuiying furrowed his brows as he looked carefully. The white fog caused the interior of the palace to be faintly discernible. However, he was able to see some tall bronze-red pillars. Dongbu Shuiying. Suddenly, a majestic voice sounded, and the huge black dragon behind him flew to the back of Dongbu Shuiying. Especially the huge black dragon head. It was right beside Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the black dragon. What's the matter? The Black Wind Divine Palace is where my master cultivated in the past. The black dragon said, my master didn't wish for some weak transcendents to overestimate themselves and barge in. Thus, he set up a simple array outside the Black Wind Divine Palace. He ordered some black armored guards to patrol. Then he ordered us, the refiner organisms, to chase away those transcendents. To be honest, those black armored guards and those saint-tier refiner organisms are only in charge of trivial matters. Only I am truly in charge of the outermost perimeter. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. He could tell that if he didn't have the true meaning of gravity, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat the black dragon in a head-on battle. However, the laws of profound mysteries were as such. No matter how strong you were. But if the laws of profound mysteries were countered, you wouldn't be able to unleash your full strength and would be toyed around with. Amongst my master's subordinates, I am the most useless one. The black dragon said, thus, I am in charge of the outermost perimeter. The interior of this divine palace is extremely dangerous, especially that white fog. There is a danger of death. Once you enter, you must be careful. Once you feel that something is amiss, immediately shout, admit defeat. Although you will be chased out, at least you will be able to preserve your life. I understand. Thanks. Dongbua Shuang laughed. He could feel the goodwill of the Black Dragon. After all, Ancestor Black Wind was an ancestor of the Xia people. He was still relatively lenient towards the transcendence of the Xia people. This was also the reason why Jingqiu, Palace Lord Chan and the rest did not stop Dongbua Shuang. However, Dongbua Shuang was ultimately still too weak. His frontal attacks were not even in the top 10 of the demigod rankings, let alone Mountain Lord He and the rest. Mountain Lord He, faction head Si Kongyang, and the rest would not be able to do anything here. They would be defeated and have to leave helplessly. One could imagine the might of the attacks here. If he was not careful, Dongbua Shuang might lose his life. Dongbua Shuang walked towards the palace alone. The huge black dragon that was entrenched outside the palace was secretly worried. He was very optimistic about Dongbua Shuang. A saint transcendent was already so powerful. This was an elite of the Xia people. He was afraid that Dongbua Shuang would lose his life inside. That would be too much of a pity. Dongbua Shuang walked past the door and entered the main hall of the palace. The surroundings were still filled with white fog. Amen? Dongbua Shuang furrowed his brows as he sensed his surroundings. His gravity domain had also enveloped the surroundings. Although he did not activate it, he was still carefully sensing his surroundings. His gravity domain could only envelop this main hall. Any further, and it would be obstructed by an invisible array. The array within this Black Wind Deity Palace is actually able to obstruct my gravity detection? Dongbua Shuang was very shocked. Gravity was extremely hard to obstruct, and the difficulty of obstructing it was no less than obstructing his extreme piercing. Moreover, this Black Wind Deity Palace is also obstructing my extreme piercing. This deity palace was enveloped by an invisible force. Dongbua Shuang had tried using his true meaning of extreme piercing, but he was also unable to penetrate through it. This made Dongbua Shuang even more curious. Back then, the reincarnators from the Temporal Temple had also made preparations in advance. That was why they purchased precious arrays to obstruct Dongbua Shuang. However, Ancestor Black Wind was different. The Black Wind Deity Palace that he built had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. It had obstructed generations of transcendence from the Xia people, as expected of a powerful mage that could suppress an era. Even after he died, the deity palace that he left behind still caused generations of transcendence from the Xia people to be helpless against it. Dongbua Shuang exclaimed inwardly. At the same time, he became even more cautious of his surroundings. A long spear had already appeared in his hand. Snow Eagle, be careful. I can sense a unique existence spying on you. He is right beside you. A ripple was transmitted into Dongbua Shuang's mind. The source of the ripple was the greenish-gray wristband on his wrist. Chapter 225. It's right beside me? Dongbua Shuang was shocked. Because of the Black Dragon's reminder, he had been scanning his surroundings carefully the moment he entered the palace. The Black Dragon had mentioned that there was a danger of death within the white fog. This made Dongbua Shuang even more cautious. He did not discover any enemies, but the deity world divine weapon did. Dongbua Shuang did not hesitate to unleash his gravity domain's power. The surging gravitational force repelled everything around him. Regardless of whether it was the sturdy pillars or the white fog, they were all easily repelled by the gravitational force. Although the white fog floated for a moment, it immediately regained its stability. The gravitational force was actually unable to repel this fog. Something's not right. My gravitational force is able to kill ordinary peak stage saint-class demons. This fog can actually resist it? Dongbua Shuang was shocked. Suddenly, a portion of the white fog condensed into a figure. It looked like an ape, and it was wielding two fog sabers. The white fog ape's body was still illusory, but its eyes were filled with lightning. Selah, the two fog sabers were terrifyingly fast. They left behind a trail of lightning in midair before arriving in front of Dongbua Shuang. Although it took a long time to describe, the white fog ape had condensed and slashed out with the sabers in its hands in an instant. Dang! Dongbua Shuang was extremely cautious. His reflex was to stab out with his spear. Wherever the spear passed, a black line would appear in the space around it. However, the space around it was completely sealed, and it could not be torn apart. When the spear and the white fog sabers clashed, a metallic sound could be heard. The power of the collision caused Dongbu Shuiying's body to tremble and take a step back. Even so, he continued to stab out with his spear. Shwa shwa shwa. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of black lines appeared. The stellar fire cloud spear turned into countless spear shadows that crazily enveloped the white fog ape. Faster, faster, faster. He pushed his speed to the maximum. Dongbu Shuiying didn't even have time to think. He relied purely on his instincts to stab out with his spear. The true meaning of extreme piercing was already extremely shocking in terms of speed. This moment it was on full display. He drew his spear as he retreated, drew his spear as he advanced, and drew his spear as he turned. The traces of black threads were like an inescapable net. Dang dang dang. The sound of weapons clashing was very dense. The white mist ape's dual blades were also furiously slashing. The blades formed by his white mist had the feeling of nothingness of the white mist, but they also carried lightning and were shockingly fast. Speed against speed. Enduring a single extreme piercing wasn't much. Being able to face it head-on for 1,000 times was truly amazing. He actually blocked it. Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. This white fog ape is stronger than me, and my true meaning of extreme piercing is more mystical than its saber art. However, it was able to block my attacks head-on. Furthermore, his speed was too fast. His saber technique even incorporated the power of mist and lightning. The black dragon has a large body and great strength, but its battle techniques are too crude. Suddenly, the white fog ape stopped retreating. Its lightning eyes were still staring at Dongbu Shuiying. Human transcendent, the true meaning of your spear technique is truly strange. That piercing power continuously penetrates into my saber, greatly reducing the speed of my saber technique. Otherwise, I would have defeated you long ago. This caused Dongbu Shuiying to be inwardly shocked. So its speed could actually be even faster? That's right. Although it had blocked extreme piercing, the power contained within extreme piercing still greatly affected its saber technique. You can block one of me, but what about 4 of me? The white fog ape suddenly revealed a cold smile. Its figure started to disperse. It dispersed into 4 illusory figures. The 4 illusory figures gathered the surrounding white mist and formed 4 white fog apes. These 4 white fog apes each held a curved saber with both hands and stared at Dongbu Shuiying. 4? Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed. Kill! The 4 white fog apes surrounded him at the same time. Their speed was terrifyingly fast and they instantly closed in. As the saying went, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. It was too difficult to defend against the encirclement of 4. Under the suppression of the gravity domain, Dongbu Shuiying's spear technique changed. Countless spear shadows of the stellar fire cloud spear danced around. Sweeping, collapsing, blocking, leading, twisting, whipping, sealing. In an instant, a red cloud appeared in Dongbu Shuiying's line of sight. The red cloud seemed to revolve like the stars in the sky, forming an impenetrable defense. The true meaning of star was formed by the earth containing water, fire, and wind. Although it did not have the terrifying penetrative power of extreme piercing, it was boundless and boundless. Could contain everything. His spear technique was also able to contain everything. It was like moving clouds and flowing water, without a single flaw. A single spear was actually able to block the encirclement of 4 white fog apes. What? This human transcendence defense is so strong. The white fog apes were shocked. Pung! While defending, Dongbu Shuiying's spear also contained a surging force. With a sweep of his spear, 3 white fog apes were sent flying. You are split into 4, so it is indeed harder to defend. However, your strength and speed have been reduced. You are still not my match. After sweeping away 3 white fog apes, Dongbu Shuiying immediately followed up with a ferocious stab of extreme piercing through the body of the last white fog ape. The white fog ape's eyes widened in shock. Then it completely dissipated and reformed in the distance. They were condensed from fog. Their gathering and dispersing were unpredictable. It was impossible to kill them. At the very least, demigods did not have the means to kill them. I don't believe that a saint transcendent like you can defeat me. No saint transcendent has ever defeated me before. The white fog apes roared. Who? The 4 white fog apes frantically attacked Dongbu Ying. One moment they would surround him. The next, they would combine into one, forming the strongest white fog ape. The white fog apes even split into 2. The 2 white fog apes, whose strength had been reduced, attacked simultaneously. However, it was useless. No matter how the white fog apes attacked, Dongbu Ying was able to block them. Moreover, as the battle progressed, Dongbu Ying began to ponder more about his spear techniques. He also gained a deeper understanding of the true meaning of extreme piercing and the true meaning of star. Battle was a practical test of his spear techniques. This allowed Dongbu Ying's spear techniques to improve continuously. Go in. The white fog ape, who had retreated a distance away, seemed a little lonely. He stood in the main hall and said in a low voice, I can't defeat you. I can't stop you. I really didn't expect that I would lose to a saint. Ever since I was born, I have never lost to a saint in the 8 million years since I was born. Never. Ever since he was refined until now. This was the first time he was helpless against a saint. Although Dongbu Ying didn't destroy him, his body was formed from fog. Even a demigod or a deity like the Dragon Mountain Emperor wouldn't be able to destroy him. Therefore, as long as he couldn't defeat an enemy, it meant that he had lost. However, brat, I am the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper of the palace. The white fog ape looked at Dongbu Ying with eyes filled with electricity. In this black wind deity palace, the other fellows are all stronger than me. Moreover, they will only get stronger. You are still too weak. I advise you to give up. You are already so strong as a saint. Your potential is shocking. Wait until you become a demigod before coming back. At that time, you will have hope of reaching the deepest part of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The second chapter. Chapter 226. I still want to try. Dongbu Ying walked towards the side door of the palace. The white fog ape looked at Dongbu Ying's back and shook his head. He is overestimating himself. This saint is the most promising transcendent I have ever seen. I hope he doesn't die inside. He won. Outside the door of the palace, the huge black dragon's golden eyes were wide open and filled with shock. Its huge head directly extended to the doorstep of the palace and looked at the white fog ape inside. Hey Wu Lei, didn't you always brag to me about how powerful you are? Are you calling me stupid? What's wrong with you today? You can't even win against a saint? Humph, you stupid dragon. The white fog ape was slightly embarrassed. Didn't I still get defeated? How can I be the same as you? I was defeated by his true meaning of gravity. My body is too big and is restrained by him. Otherwise, I would have sent him flying with my tail. The giant dragon looked through the door and was slightly worried. Sigh, this kid is forcing his way in. I hope he doesn't die in there. The white fog ape dissipated completely and turned back into white fog that permeated the entire palace. He had been living like this for hundreds of thousands of years. The corridor was 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide. The walls were sparkling like jade and as smooth as a mirror. The corridor was at least 1,000 meters deep. Wielding the stellar fire cloud spear, Dongbu Ying walked alone. He used his gravity domain to scan the surroundings while maintaining an extremely strong repulsive force. After walking for 1,000 meters, a green staircase appeared in front of him. It extended downwards. Dang dang dang. Following the staircase, he walked for close to 200 meters before reaching the next level. Dongbu Ying's expression changed. Boom. The strong repulsive force of gravity forced out a hidden living being at the corner of the wall. Previously, the corner of the wall looked ordinary, and one couldn't see any living being hiding there. However, after passing through the array and reaching the next level, the hidden living being naturally resisted the force of gravity and was exposed. This hidden creature seemed to break free from the wall, twisting and transforming into a gray-robed man. The gray-robed man carried a pair of short black sticks on his back. He grimaced in pain as he touched his face. His face seemed to have been kneaded to look like a normal human. I was actually discovered by you. To be able to defeat that stupid dragon in Lei Wu, a saint-tier transcendent like you really does have some ability. The gray-robed man's voice sounded like metal rubbing against stone, hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. But, you're just a saint-level transcendent, it's impossible for you to defeat me. Boom! The gray-robed man approached in an instant. He held a short stick in each of his hands. The short sticks were about 4 feet long, and he waved them. The short pole was brandished out. It was as if it was tearing apart the world. It brought along a terrifying power that made Shuang apprehensive as it came crushing over. Even before exchanging blows, Shuang could rely on his gravity domain to sense the surrounding space to determine that the power of this pole had far surpassed his. But the speed of this short pole was similarly frighteningly fast, and he did not have the time to retreat. He could only resist. He didn't even dare to face it head-on and tried his best to divert the force. Chi! The rod slashed downwards, and the spear's shadow collided with it like a swimming dragon. It was incomparably slippery, but Dongbu Shuiying's expression still changed. His hands went numb, and he couldn't help but stagger. Boom! Almost instinctively, the gray-robed man's other hand slashed out with the short rod as well. It was too fast. One rod followed the other like a windmill. It was too hasty, and Dongbu Shuiying barely managed to block the spear in front of him. Boom! Following the sound of the collision, the stellar fire cloud spear's shaft was bent, and the bent spear shaft struck Dongbu Shuiying's chest. Even though the boundless force of the impact was weakened by the true meaning of star, Dongbu Shuiying was still sent flying backwards. Fortunately, this attack was blocked by the spear shaft before it reached his body. Boom! The gray-robed man's hands were like windmills, and he swung his rod a third time. Dongbu Shuiying, whose arms were numb, tried his best to block the attack, but he was a step too slow. One rod. It landed squarely on Dongbu Shuiying's abdomen. Xiu! Dongbu Shuiying's entire body was like a ray of light, and he was sent flying, crashing into one of the green steps behind him. Pa pa pa! Dongbu Shuiying felt that 6 of his bones were broken. Hoo! He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, and his face turned pale. Demigod peak stage. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the gray-robed man with a pale face. In terms of strength, the black dragon had also reached the demigod peak stage. But could the two of them be the same? Those with a huge body would usually have great strength. The difference in size between a human and an ant would naturally be huge as well. By the same logic, the black dragon's body was too huge, and its advantage in size allowed it to excel in strength. However, this gray-robed man was different. He only had the height of a human, but his strength was at the demigod peak stage. Furthermore, his rod techniques also contained the profound mysteries of space. What about him? He had grasped hold of 3 true intents, but in terms of strength, he was only at the level of an experienced demigod. In a head-on clash, he was completely suppressed. Boom! When Dongbu Shuiying landed on the steps, the gray-robed man had already appeared in front of him. At this point, Dongbu Shuiying did not even have the time to retaliate. Enough! A loud roar. Boom! The greenish-gray bracelet on Dongbu Shuiying's wrist instantly transformed into a green armored protector. The green armored protector slapped out furiously, causing layers of space to distort like the ripples on the surface of water. The gray-robed man's expression changed. He swung out the rod in his right hand, smashing it directly towards the green armored protector's terrifying palm. The two of them clashed. The green armored protector stood at his original position, not moving at all. However, the gray-robed man was sent flying backwards and landed on the ground. The deity world warrior of the Xia people? The gray-robed man frowned. You are also a deity world warrior, right? The green armored protector coldly said. But a weaker one. I am only the 5th of the 5 shadows. What does it matter if you win against me? If you have the ability, then beat my big brother. The gray-robed man coldly snorted. The deity world warriors that the ancestors of the Xia people sent back to their homeland had all reached the threshold of a demigod. Under the restrictions of the laws of heaven and earth, they were the strongest deity world warriors that could be sent down. The stronger ones had already surpassed the limits of the laws of heaven and earth. The green armor protector's strength was comparable to the demonic avatar of the purple-armored skinny demon general. And that demon general was comparable to Mountain Lord He, who wielded the deity weapon. Even the demonic avatar had a portion of the original strength. The green armor protector could definitely be considered as one of the top 10 demigods. Moreover, they had an advantage over ordinary demigods. They were absolutely undying. Even with an undying body, they could still be killed. But they did not even have the possibility of being killed. At the very least, demigods could not do it. Even the Dragon Mountain Emperor, who had become a deity, could not hope to do so. Those that could destroy deity world warriors were much stronger than the Dragon Mountain Emperor. Brat, you are not my opponent. This deity world warrior of the Xia people is very strong. He has the strength of one of the top 10 demigods, and he can defeat me. But if you want to pass through me, you must rely on your own strength. Otherwise, you will be going against Master's rules. Going against Master's rules, isn't something a deity world warrior can block. The gray-robed man stood there, the two black rods in his hands casually inserted behind his back. Go back and cultivate. Come back again when your transcendent chi reaches the peak of the demigod level. Snow Eagle, let's go. The green armored protector turned to look at Dongbushui Ying. The master of the Black Wind Deity Palace is, after all, an existence that could suppress an era. The deity palace that he left behind is not so easy to break through. I know. Dongbushui Ying also stood up and touched his chest. His bones and internal organs were rapidly recovering. I didn't expect that after just entering the deity palace and defeating the gatekeeper, I would be crushed on the stairs of the corridor. Dongbushui Ying shook his head lightly. He stretched out his hand, and the green armored protector immediately turned into a stream of energy and wrapped around Dongbushui Ying's wrist. Originally, I wanted to rely on my own strength to break through and see how far I can go. Seems like the gap is too big. It's good that you know the gap is big. The gray-robed man said indifferently. If you didn't have the deity world warrior of the Xia people, I would definitely teach you an unforgettable lesson. The gap is big and I can't fight head-on. Dongbushui Ying laughed. But can you touch me now? Hua! Dongbushui Ying disappeared without a trace. Where is he? Where is he? The gray-robed man was shocked. He looked around. How could he disappear without a trace? Master's deity palace is filled with layers of arrays, and the space is sealed. How could he disappear without a trace? Where did he go? He couldn't find Dongbushui Ying at all. In the other world, the other side of the real world, AI, who would have thought that I would be forced to use this move so quickly? The black-robed teenager walked in a vast world. This world was like a reflection of the real world, and it was exactly the same as the real world. But this was the mirage. Only those who had sufficient understanding of the mirage could enter this mysterious world with their bodies. The true meaning of mirage had a lower offensive power than a grade 3 true meaning. But in the mirage, it was extremely difficult for an expert from the real world to attack or even discover it. When he reached the entrance of the Black Wind Deity Palace, Dongbushui Ying discovered it. Teleportation? The space was sealed, and he couldn't teleport. Extreme piercing? The Black Wind Deity Palace was enveloped by an extremely powerful force, and the obstruction of piercing was too great. But the mirage? The arrays of the Black Wind Deity Palace could not affect the mirage at all. Experts who could control the mirage were known as the most terrifying assassins. It was easy to obstruct extreme piercing, but to obstruct the mirage, one had to meet an existence with a higher level of understanding of the true meaning of mirage. Or one could completely isolate the world. The real world and the mirage were completely isolated. But these two aspects were too difficult. In the history of the Xia people, other than Dongbushui Ying, there was only one other person who had grasped a grade 2 true meaning. And the true meaning of mirage was extremely rare even amongst grade 2 true meanings. To meet another person who could control the mirage? How difficult would that be? As for obstructing the real world and the mirage, that was something only a god could do. Who? Dongbushui Ying walked in the mirage. Where is he? Why did he disappear? How is this possible? What kind of law of profound mysteries is this? How could he avoid Master's arrays? The gray-robed male did not dare believe it. Pa! A hand appeared out of nowhere. appearing above his head and patting it. You can slowly search here. Dongbu Shuiying's teasing voice could be heard. The gray-robed male waved his palm upwards, but the space above him was empty. Dongbu Shuiying had already retracted his palm back into the mirage. What technique has he grasped? The gray-robed male looked in all directions. Dongbu Shuiying was strolling in the mirage, heading deeper into the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Black Wind Deity Palace was protected by layers of arrays in the real world, but it was unobstructed in the mirage. Everything was under Dongbu Shuiying's observation. Under his observation, Dongbu Shuiying discovered many obstacles and dangers within the Black Wind Deity Palace. There were also many existences stronger than the gray-robed male. The Black Wind Deity Palace's terrifying strength was not just for show, but no matter how terrifying it was useless. Because they could not discover Dongbu Shuiying, who was in the mirage, let alone attack him. Chapter 228. In one of the halls of the Black Wind Deity Palace, a gold man clad in a gray robe, whose entire body seemed to be cast from gold, was sitting on the main seat. The gold man had a pair of glowing golden eyes. Just by sitting there, he emitted a formless pressure, as though he was a towering mountain. Big brother. There were 4 figures standing beside him. These 4 figures were the gray-robed man, the red-haired handsome youth, the bewitching and beautiful woman, and the calm and indifferent child who had fought with Dongbu Shuiying previously. We have searched the entire Black Wind Deity Palace, but we couldn't find that Dongbu Shuiying, the red-haired handsome youth hastily said. Old 5. The bewitching woman smiled lightly, and the surroundings seemed to be filled with color. This smile of hers was enough to move the hearts of many transcendents. However, the 4 beside her were deity warriors, so they weren't affected at all. Are you mistaken? Master's attainments in arrays are extremely high. If a powerful transcendent spent time to slowly decipher the arrays he set up, I would believe it. But you said that he disappeared without a trace. That's too ridiculous. He indeed disappeared without a trace. The gray-robed man was somewhat angry. Second brother, you didn't find him either? The gold man looked at the indifferent child. The indifferent child nodded lightly. I didn't find him. I went to the place where old 5 was guarding and carefully searched, but I couldn't find him. Oh, the gold man pondered. At this moment, in the mirage, Dongbu Shuiying was watching these 5 with interest. From their conversation, he had already deduced that these 5 should be the so-called 5 shadows. From the vague sense of threat he felt, each one was stronger than the last. Especially the gold man. The pressure he brought with him was even stronger than the green armored protector who was protecting him. This was normal. The green armored protector formed by the green-gray bracelets specialized in protection. As for the gold man, Dongbu Shuiying deduced that he was a deity warrior who specialized in attacking. The number of deity warriors of the Xia people can be counted on one hand, Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself. However, every single one of them has reached the limits of the natural laws of the heaven and earth. As for the celestial world warriors in the Black Wind Deity Palace, there are weak ones and strong ones. That weak gray-robed man was easily sent flying by the green-armored guardian. However, the other 4 are getting stronger and stronger. Even if they are slightly weaker, they are still 5 celestial world warriors. Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. Celestial world warriors? Those were made by a god, and there were 5 of them at once? Dongbu Shuiying also suspected that the white fog ape guarding the entrance of the palace was a celestial world warrior. However, it was a celestial world warrior that was slightly weaker than the gray-robed man. Also, in the depths of the Black Wind Deity Palace, there was an existence that seemed to be from the deity realm. In total, there were 7 of them. No wonder the palace lord Chun was so vague about it. Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself, there must be some secrets behind it. Hua! The gold man who was sitting on the throne stood up and said coldly, all of you go back to your own places. I'm going to see that water rat. That water rat, relying on the fact that master trusted him the most, always puts on airs in front of us. How annoying. The red-haired handsome young man curled his lips. In terms of strength he is even weaker than Big Brother. Logically speaking, We should be in charge of the Black Wind Deity Palace. However, before Master died, he let that water rat take charge of it. The gray-robed man snorted as well. All right. The gold man frowned and immediately left. In the mirage, Dongbu Shuang followed the gold man. Soon the gold man arrived at a garden. In the garden there was a lake that was several hundred meters wide. The water in the lake was pitch black. On the shore of the black lake, the ground was as smooth as a mirror. A black rat, about half a meter tall, was sitting cross-legged like a human. The black rat's whiskers drooped down, and its eyes were closed as it silently cultivated. Dong! 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 As the gold man walked, the earth seemed to shake. The smooth ground of the entire garden started to tremble, and the black lake started to roll. Bossing, it's rare that you come to see me. Do you want to fight every time? The black rat opened its eyes, revealing a pair of bright black eyes. I can't beat you, but you can't do anything to me either. What's the point of fighting? Isn't it because Master trusted me the most and handed everything to me, letting me take charge? I'm not fighting anymore. The gold man said coldly, we are about to be freed. I'm afraid that we will soon leave this Black Wind Deity Palace. There's no need to fight anymore. You mean that human Dongbu Shuang? Why? You five shadows have your own specialties, but you can't find him? The black rat was shocked. He was in charge of the entire Black Wind Deity Palace's array. From the moment Dongbu Shuang disappeared, he was already on guard. I can't find him. The gold man shook his head. The black rat frowned. The frown of a rat was quite cute. Suddenly, he looked at the void beside him. Dongbu Shuang, you should be here, right? The gold man's expression changed slightly. Aha, your guess is correct. I'm indeed here. However, you can't find me. Dongbu Shuang's voice reverberated within the garden, causing the gold man and the black rat to be startled. He was really here? The black rat continued. My master has only condensed a deity heart by relying on a grade 3 true meaning. Even though he had some fortuitous encounters and had great accomplishments in the field of arrays, when it comes to true meanings of a higher grade like the legendary grade 2 true meanings, or even the unimaginable grade 1 true meanings, they are too strange and cannot be guarded against. You should have grasped hold of an extremely strange grade 2 true meaning, right? Is it impossible for me to have grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning? Dongbu Shuang teased. His voice continued to reverberate. If you had grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning, I'm afraid you would have been able to sweep through everything. The black rat laughed. It's impossible for you to be injured by the fifth shadow. Who? Within this peaceful garden, a black-robed teenager walked out from the void. He was none other than Dongbu Shuang. The gold man and the black rat looked curiously at this black-robed teenager, carefully scrutinizing his appearance and figure. What are the two of you doing? Dongbu Shuang felt somewhat uncomfortable being stared at like this. For you to be able to defeat the gatekeeper, Lei Wu, and survive against the fifth shadow, you must have grasped hold of at least a grade 2 true meaning, the black rat said. You've also grasped hold of an extremely strange and unfathomable grade 2 true meaning. In other words, you must have grasped hold of at least 2 grade 2 true meanings. In the history of the Xia people, other than you, there hasn't been anyone as formidable as you. The most heaven-defying transcendent in the history of the Xia people? The black rat exclaimed. Dongbu Shuang laughed. I've already broken through the layers of arrays and arrived at the deepest part of this god palace. I would like to ask if I have succeeded, and if I can obtain the treasures left behind by Senior Black Wind? The gold man and the black rat exchanged glances. Did it count? My master has arranged for a black dragon to guard the outer perimeter. This black dragon is a refiner organism personally refined by my master. The black rat said. As for the gatekeeper Lei Wu, he is a deity warrior. Behind him are the 5 shadows, each stronger than the last. They all have their own specialties, and breaking through their obstructions is extremely difficult. Other than that, there are also the obstructions from the arrays. For example, after defeating the first shadow, you still need to forcefully break through an array. Usually, only someone with a combat power comparable to my master, or in other words, a deity, can break through it. Only after breaking through it can you reach my place. The black rat laughed. his whiskers curling up. But you can't even win against the fifth shadow. However, I still have to say that you have succeeded. The black rat grinned. My master only said that by relying on one's true strength to break through the layers of obstructions and arrive before me, the Xia people's transcendence can obtain everything he left behind. Indeed, you have relied on your own strength to break through the layers of obstructions. Dongbu Shuiying revealed a joyous expression. He had actually succeeded. By relying on the true meaning of mirage, those obstructions could not obstruct him at all, and he had arrived here. And he had succeeded? He was just asking, and he didn't have much hope for it. He was still thinking that even if he did not succeed, he could always try again in the future when he was stronger. Dongbu Shuiying, you have grasped hold of at least 2 grade 2 true meanings. If you are not qualified, who is? The gold man said. You have indeed relied on your own strength to break through the layers of obstructions. Chapter 229. Actually, both the black rat and the gold man were eager to leave this place. Being stuck in a cavern palace for tens of thousands of years was too cruel. But the previous generations of Xia people were indeed not strong enough. Those grade 3 and grade 4 true meaning Xia people demigods could even use deity weapons to break through. But to break through head-on, one had to be as strong as Ancestor Black Wind. But in the tens of thousands of years after Ancestor Black Wind's death, none of the transcendents had reached such a realm. It was too difficult. Dongbu Shuiying could not break through head-on. But even Ancestor Black Wind did not say that he had to break through head-on. My true meaning is mysterious enough to easily break through all obstacles. There is no need to fight head-on. This is also strength. Breaking through obstacles relying on your own strength. And Xia people transcendence. The black rat said, if you meet these 3 criteria, you will succeed. Of course you will succeed. Where are the treasures left behind by Ancestor Black Wind? Dongbu Shuiying looked around. The black rat and gold man looked at each other. It's not in the Black Wind deity palace, the black rat said honestly. Not in. Dongbu Shuiying stared. The gold man said, it's like this. That year, Master prevented experts who became deities from robbing him. He also prevented the Beast clan and outsiders from robbing him. Thus, Master's treasures are not in the Black Wind deity palace. Instead, they are in an extremely safe place. After all, everything left behind by Master can only be given to the Xia people. We cannot let outsiders take advantage of it. Right. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. He then asked curiously, if that's the case, why didn't Ancestor Black Wind leave his treasures to the infernal palace of the Xia people? Instead, he built the Black Wind deity palace and left it to the later generations of the Xia people? Many transcendents and even demigods would leave some of their treasures to their own sects before they died. Most of them would stay in the infernal palace. The infernal palace was shared by the entire Xia people. Disagreement. The black rat said, that year, Master also wanted to leave his treasures to the infernal palace. However, during the discussion with the palace head, there was a disagreement and they had a huge argument. From then on, all of Master's treasures were not left in the infernal palace. Instead, he hid them away. Quarrel. Dongbu Shuiying was puzzled. He could feel that this senior Black Wind still cared about the Xia people. Otherwise, why would he spend so much effort before his death? Back then, Senior Black Wind was the undisputed #1 expert of the Xia people. Back then, he had truly suppressed an entire era. He actually quarreled with the infernal palace master of that era? Why are you so noisy? Is there any disagreement? Dongbu Shuiying asked curiously. I don't know about that. Master didn't tell me either, said the black rat. Dongbu Shuiying mumbled to himself. An existence that could suppress an era? Quarrel with palace master? He actually has a total of 7 celestial warriors, although most of them were weaker. You'll know when you get your hands on Master's treasures, the black rat said. Master also said that everything is within his treasures. Many treasures, including our warrior talismans, are all there. If you want us to listen to your orders, you have to get the talismans first. Where's the treasures? Dongbu Shuiying asked. Humph. The black rat was delighted. Only the water rat knows. The gold man laughed. No one else knows. Therefore, even if a god came and caught the water rat by force, even a water rat can't go against its master's orders and say it. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the black rat. Get out. The black rat said to the gold man. You even dare to hide it from me. The gold man shook his head. However, he still turned and walked out of the garden. Only Dongbu Shuiying and the black rat were left in the garden. Dongbu Shuiying was also curious. Where exactly did this ancestor Black Wind hide the treasures? In the deepest part of this Black Wind deity palace. The black rat said. There is a huge hall. Within that hall there is a hidden door to the world. It leads to a major transcendent world. This is a unique major transcendent world. It grows within the folds of the world's outer layer. It is completely sealed, and the world membrane cannot be torn apart. The transcendent natives of this major transcendent world have never been able to tear through space and enter the mortal world. Oh! Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. No wonder. No wonder no one knew about this ninth major transcendent world. It grew in a completely sealed environment. Because the folds of the outer layer of the world were sealed, it was not connected to the space layer. To tear apart this completely sealed world membrane, it was equivalent to tearing apart the outermost layer of the mortal world. That was way too difficult. Normally, tearing apart space would only tear apart the innermost layer of the membrane and enter the space layer. Outside the space layer was the thickest outer layer of membrane. This outer layer of membrane enveloped the mortal world, as well as all the minor and major transcendent worlds. Because the major transcendent worlds were connected to the mortal world, the connection formed a world gate. This sealed major transcendent world's only exit was this world gate. Master's treasure is hidden deep underground in this major transcendent world. The black rat said, I'll give you the map. He's not afraid of being discovered and snatched away? Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. Firstly, the treasure is very unique. Other than being able to see it with the naked eye, no other methods of detection can detect it. Using the naked eye to find a treasure in the vast underground of a major transcendent world? Who would be able to find it? Before this, no one knew that there was a treasure there. No one would be stupid enough to slowly search for it with the naked eye. The black rat said. Secondly, even if they found it, they wouldn't be able to open it. The key to open it is with me. Thirdly, the entrance to the world gate can only be used by human transcendence. Combined, it's definitely safe. The black rat was confident. He stretched out his hand. An octagonal black talisman appeared on his furry paw. This is the key. Take it. Dongbu Shuiying took it. I'll draw the map for you. The black rat waved its little paw, and the waves in the black lake immediately flew up. These waves immediately began to form a huge three-dimensional pattern in mid-air. This is the detailed map of the major transcendent world. The treasure is right there. The black rat pointed at a part of the huge three-dimensional map. Instantly, a golden light shone from it. The huge map dissipated. The water waves returned to the lake. I'll give you the key. I'll also tell you the map. The black rat said. You have to be careful. After all, this is a major transcendent world. After tens of thousands of years, no one knows which transcendent natives are in this major transcendent world. There were strong and weak transcendent natives. For example, the second-ranked demigod, Fire Demon Emperor. Within his Fire Demon world, he was invincible. Mountain Lord he and the rest were also oppressed when they entered with deity weapons. Thus, one could not underestimate the transcendent natives. Originally, with the key and all the information, it would be easy to obtain the treasure. However, your strength is still too weak. You still have to be careful. The black rat hurriedly said. He did not want Dongbu Shuiying to die. If Dongbu Shuiying died, who knew how long it would take for them to meet the next person who could free them? Don't worry. Dongbu Shuiying had already made his decision. Major transcendent world? It might be dangerous. However, with the true meaning of mirage, he would still be able to explore it. As long as he was careful, he could just send his chi avatar in. Chi avatars were at the same realm as the main body. They could travel within the mirage. Right, that underground hall seemed to have been damaged. There were traces of battle. Shuiying hurriedly said. It was precisely because of the traces of battle that the walls of the underground Great Hall were torn apart, allowing him to survive that year. You know about it? The Black Rat was surprised. Yes, a terrifying battle happened there. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Chapter 230. Master was the strongest demigod mage in the past million years. The Black Rat said. As he neared the end of his lifespan, Master was not willing to die just like that. Hence, he conducted some experiments in the major transcendent world. The Black Wind Deity Palace was ultimately too small. A major transcendent world was big enough for many experiments to be conducted. In the end, a terrifying existence was created. That terrifying existence fought with Master, and the battle was devastating. Master was defeated and retreated to the Black Wind Deity Palace from the major transcendent world. Dongbu Shuiying was inwardly shocked. An existence that could suppress an era? He was defeated and escaped to the Black Wind Deity Palace. What terrifying thing did the Black Wind ancestor create in his final experiment? That terrifying existence was extremely powerful. Master's array at the World Gate could not stop it. It forced its way into the Black Wind Deity Palace. In the underground hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace, Master had a life-and-death battle with it. Master did not dare to let it leave. Once it entered the mortal world, it would bring a calamity to the Xia people. The Black Wind Deity Palace was where Master set up layers of arrays. It was also the place where Master could unleash his strongest power. If he left the Black Wind Deity Palace, Master would no longer be able to stop that terrifying existence. For the sake of the Xia people, to resolve the calamity he created, Master spared no expense. In the end, he dealt with that terrifying existence. Master was already nearing the end of his lifespan. After the battle, Master died soon after. The Black Rat said. Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head lightly. He sighed inwardly. A peak transcendent mage that could suppress an era. He desired to become a god but created a terrifying existence. He had to resolve the calamity he created himself. After resolving it, his lifespan would be gone. Is becoming a god so difficult? Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. Every generation of the Xia people had a group of demigods. But how many gods were there? Is there anything else you want to tell me? Dongbu Shuiying smiled. If not, I will be leaving. You don't have to be in a rush to retrieve the treasure. The Black Rat placed its claws in front of its chest. That is a major transcendent world. Even if it takes another 1,000 years, we can afford to wait. Don't worry, I have my own plans. I will be leaving first. Shuiying immediately turned around. With a single step he disappeared. At the bottom of the Black Wind Abyss, a black-robed young man walked out from the main entrance of the palace. Impressive. The ape formed from the white mist looked at Dongbu Shuiying with admiration. You succeeded? The black dragon, who was coiled up outside the cave, extended his head towards Dongbu Shuiying. His huge golden eyes were filled with excitement. Dongbu Shuiying, you actually succeeded. You're just a transcendent saint. This is too amazing. Old dragon, really admire you. Quickly tell me, how did you defeat the 5 shadows? Especially Boss Ying. The leader of the 5 shadows was the Gold Man. His combat prowess was the strongest in the entire cavern palace. In front of the Gold Man, the black dragon could only be casually trampled. It's a secret. Dongbu Shuiying grinned. You're still keeping it a secret? The black dragon glared. Remember, you guys must not leak out the news of my success. Dongbu Shuiying said. Strictly speaking, I've only succeeded half of the time. I have yet to obtain your command talismans, and am unable to bring you guys away. Don't worry. The black dragon nodded. We will definitely keep this a secret. Currently, the refiner lifeforms and deity warriors of the Black Wind Deity Palace were standing on the side of Dongbu Shuiying. Once Dongbu Shuiying obtained the talismans and other items, he would become their master. All of them were longing for that day. After all, it was too depressing to be cooped up in this place. Xiu. Dongbu Shuiying's figure flashed and appeared far away. His current speed was simply too fast. On the Black Wind Cliff, Jing Qiu was waiting anxiously by herself. However, she felt that Senior Snow Eagle's safety should be guaranteed. After all, he was accompanied by a deity warrior that specialized in defense. Furthermore, the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace did not have any killing intent towards the transcendence of the Xia people. Shua! Dongbu Shuiying instantly rushed out of the enormous Black Wind whirlpool. He transformed into a stream of light and flew in front of Jing Qiu. One stood at the edge of the cliff, while the other stood in the air. The two of them faced each other. "You're back? How is it? Are you all right?" Jing Qiu revealed an expression of joy. "You've witnessed the power of the Black Wind Deity Palace, right? Tell me more about the powers of the Black Wind Deity Palace." Looking through the scrolls, not a single transcendent has succeeded in the Black Wind Deity Palace. It's pretty impressive. Dongbu Shuiying held onto Jing Qiu's hand. "However, from now on, your senior brother, I will be the first transcendent to succeed." Jing Qiu was startled and had an astonished expression on her face. "You're not lying to me?" Jing Qiu asked in disbelief. "I really succeeded." When Dongbu Shuiying saw Jing Qiu's expression of disbelief, he laughed. "Senior warrior, I didn't lie, right? You've indeed succeeded." The green-gray wristband emitted a stream of air, condensing into a green-armored guard. "Senior warrior, keep this a secret for now," Dongbu Shuiying said. "Also keep my strength a secret as well." "I understand." The green-armored guard nodded. "With your strength, the fewer people who know about it, the better. Jing Qiu, keep this a secret for Dongbu Shuiying as well. It won't be long before he becomes the strongest demigod of the Xia people." Jing Qiu nodded repeatedly. If Palace Lord Chun was absolutely loyal, then there was no need to doubt the loyalty of the Deity World Warriors. This was because when these Deity World Warriors were sent down, their combat talismans were left behind in the Deity World. Hence, in the world of the Xia people, it was impossible to find their combat talismans. Regardless of who it was, no one would be able to truly refine and control them. These Deity World Warriors would forever follow the orders of their masters, the ancestors of the Xia people in the deity world. Protect the Xia people forever. The green-armored guard deduced that Dongbu Shuiying's value to the Xia people had greatly increased. Of course, he would do his best to help Dongbu Shuiying. Following which, he transformed back into a green-gray wristband and reappeared on Dongbu Shuiying's wrist. "Let's go back." Dongbu Shuiying held Jing Qiu's hand, and the two of them transformed into rays of light and flew back to Snowrock Castle. One day later, Shua. Within a secret underground chamber of Snowrock Castle, the red-robed Dongbu Shuiying stood there. His skin glowed with a fiery red light. This was his Battle Qi doppelganger. The existence of the Battle Qi doppelganger consumed energy at every moment. Even if there was no battle, the Battle Qi doppelganger could only last for close to a year. Before the time was up, it had to return to its original body. Otherwise, the strand of soul in the Battle Qi doppelganger would be gone. That would harm the very source of the soul. The red-robed Dongbu Shuiying also wore a green-gray wristband on his wrist. "This time, I'll have to trouble Senior Snow Eagle. Your true meaning is profound. Even the demigods in the major transcendent world might not be able to harm you. I will also do my best to protect you." The green-gray wristband rippled. "Let's go." The red-robed Dongbu Shuiying's figure distorted, and he disappeared from sight. In another world, the mirage, the red-robed Dongbu Shuiying appeared. He was flying at high speed towards the Black Wind Abyss. Regardless of whether it was the walls, mountains, or rivers, nothing could obstruct him. Because the distance was too close and his flying speed was too fast, even though he was flying normally without using his full strength or transforming into particles, he still arrived at the underground hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace in just 1 or 2 seconds. Underground hall. The hall was over 300 meters tall, and it was close to a kilometer in length and width. Even the current Dongbu Shuiying felt shocked when he saw this hall. But to Senior Black Wind it was still too small. During the last period of his life, Senior Black Wind had conducted experiments in the major transcendent world. Even the major transcendent world had become his experimental ground. The hall is still in ruins. Shuiying revealed a grin. Many of the stone pillars in this great palace hall were broken, and some had collapsed. Many places were in ruins, and the distant walls of the hall were filled with savage scars. The material used to build this hall was very special, and it had been specially refined. Even if the current Dongbo Shuang were to fight with his full strength, he wouldn't be able to injure it in the slightest. But the great battle that Senior Black Wind fought back then had caused this place to be in a mess. Only by borrowing the advantage of the layers of arrays in his palace did he manage to deal with that terrifying existence. It's still in ruins. I've lived here for 6 years, but the monkey and birdie are no longer here. Dongbo Shuang was all too familiar with this place. The monkey and birdie were the 2 trump cards of the Dongbo clan. They were the ones who dealt with the enemies. Gate of the World. Dongbo Shuang came to the front of a wall with great familiarity. The wall was sparkling and translucent. With a flick of his hand, a strand of transcendent Do Qi seeped into the wall of the palace. The wall immediately changed, and a huge gate that was over 100 meters tall appeared. A ripple came from the gate, and it was transmitted into Dongbo Shuaying's mind. Black Wind. On the other side of this gate is a major transcendent world. Those who have not reached the Saint Realm are not allowed to enter. The ripple even transmitted a map and explanation. Demigod. Dongbo Shuaying revealed a smile. The most dangerous thing to face in this major transcendent world would be the native demigod. But there might be no demigods in this major transcendent world? Or a terrifying demigod might be born there. Everything was unknown. I will travel within the Mirage Realm and scout everywhere. Let's see if the demigods in this major transcendent world can discover me. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself, if they can't discover me, the demon generals might not be able to discover me as well. Traveling within the Mirage Realm, one could scout everything. The demon generals were hidden in various places in the mortal world, hiding within their battleships. Battleships might be able to conceal them from the heaven and earth energy. However, scouting within the Mirage Realm, even gods would find it hard to block it. The only thing that Dongbo Shuaying was worried about was that he might be discovered by the demon generals when he was scouting within the Mirage Realm. If they can't discover me, I will be able to find their hiding spots and wipe them all out. Dongbo Shuaying thought to himself, I'll give it a try first. The native demigod should be of a lower cultivation realm than the demon generals. If even the native demigod could discover me, then my true meaning of mirage would have to be at a higher cultivation realm to prevent them from detecting me. With a step, Dongbo Shuaying flew through the 100-meter-tall gate on the wall of the palace. After passing through it, he entered the major transcendent world. Chapter 231. In this vast major transcendent world within an identical mirage, the red-robed Shuaying was flying at high speed, sticking close to the grass of the wasteland. The grass of the wasteland swept past his body. Even if he crashed into some hills, he would pass through them easily. It was as though everything was an illusion. The mirage dimension reflected the real world. With Dongbo Shuaying's current strength, he could control the mirage dimension within a 1,000-li radius. In the sky, on the ground, in all directions, a sphere with a diameter of 1,000 li was the area that he could observe. There are quite a lot of transcendent materials here. Under his observation, he naturally discovered many transcendent materials. Mortal worlds were too stable, and transcendent materials would not appear. As he flew, occasionally, when he encountered some valuable transcendent materials, Dongbo Shuaying would extend his hand into the real world and grab them. After flying for tens of thousands of li, the transcendent materials he collected were worth more than 30,000 kilograms of origin stones. A large transcendent world that had not been excavated for a long time was indeed a huge treasure trove. However, there were too few large transcendent worlds. The demigod natives were not to be trifled with either. After all, they were all primordial lifeforms with terrifying innate talent. The expression of Dongbo Shuaying, who was flying close to the ground, changed. Kaboom! From afar, lightning struck down like a snake. Accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, the lightning snake slithered about, turning the entire 1,000-li area into a lightning lake. Within the lightning lake, a towering giant with a height of several tens of meters was lying there. He was currently sleeping soundly, and there were streaks of lightning running through his nose and mouth. So powerful! Shuang felt an extreme threat. Even though he was far away, he could feel that this towering giant's combat power was completely above his, and the gap between them was very obvious. It should be the combat power of the top 10 demigods. Human transcendents were strong in terms of their true intent and god equipment. Thus, they did not feel too much of a threat from the surface. However, it was different for the transcendent natives. Other than being able to cultivate true intent and use god equipment, the most important thing was that they had terrifying innate talent. Just like in the primordial age, the earliest ancestors of the Xia people were those primordial life forms. At that time there was no doqi or magic power. They relied purely on their physical strength and bloodline talents. Of course, there was also the profound mysteries of true meanings. Even so, the primordial life forms were extremely powerful, and the most powerful among them had even stepped into the divine level. Just like the demon generals, because of their tyrannical bodies and gifted bloodline, they could fight against the demigods of the Xia people who wielded divine weapons. According to the annotations on Senior Black Wind's map, this large transcendent world has always been isolated from the rest of the world. Therefore, to this day, there is no method to cultivate doqi and magic power. Dongbu Shuang stared at the transcendent native who was snoring in his deep sleep, but was still able to attract the attention of the thousandly lightning swamp. Since he is in a deep sleep, it is obvious that he did not use his true intent. Just talent? How could he summon lightning within 1,000 miles while he's asleep? His body is emitting a powerful aura. I'm afraid his physical strength is at the peak of the demigod realm. With such a high talent in lightning, his speed must be very fast, and his attacks must be very fierce. Dongbu Shuang quickly made some deductions. One must know. Demons were divided into lower demons, middle demons, and upper demons. This was mainly due to the difference in talent. It was the same for the transcendent natives. Their talent was also divided into lower, middle, and upper demons. Among them, the upper demons weren't any weaker than some of the peak primordial life forms of the Xia people. His talent is at the top of the middle demons, and he might even be an upper demon. Dongbu Shuang guessed. His strength is definitely within the top 10 of the demigod rankings. I wonder if he has refined this large transcendent world. In their own large transcendent world, they would be able to control even more heaven and earth energy, and their strength would be much stronger. Furthermore, if their cultivation realm was high enough, they might even be able to refine the world core and control the entire large transcendent world. At that time, they would be able to control the boundless heaven and earth energy. That would truly be terrifying. The Fire Demon Emperor, who was ranked second in the demigod rankings, had condensed a true deity heart, and had even refined the world core of that large transcendent world. Thus, in his world he was unparalleled. With the appearance of the Fire Demon Emperor, this thunder demigod shouldn't be that heaven-defying. Dongbu Shuang thought. Who? As Dongbu Shuang flew within the mirage, the distance between him and the thunder demigod was also shrinking. He's still in a deep sleep and hasn't discovered me. Dongbu Shuang let out a sigh of relief. The deity world had long sent down the information regarding the grade 9 true meaning, and the description was indeed true. Walking within the mirage, he would be able to observe everything in the outside world. Because the mirage reflection of reality was a law of nature, Dongbu Shuang was able to discover several powerful existences in the real world. They wouldn't be able to detect it. Let alone them. Even deities wouldn't feel anything if they were illuminated by the mirage reflection. However, the mirage reflection would not be able to detect it. But there were life forms flying past the mirage. They were easy to detect. Just like how transcendents borrowed the world energy to investigate, others wouldn't be able to sense it. But if a transcendent were to walk past them, others would be suspicious. It was the same logic. Dongbu Shuang was only flying within the mirage. The mirage and the real world were two sides of the same coin. Experts in the real world, if they had a high enough comprehension of the realms, would be able to sense an invisible existence passing by them. One must know that at their level, their perception of the laws of the surrounding world was already extremely high. Dongbu Shuang's current perception range was only 500 kilometers, and the radius was only 250 kilometers. 250 kilometers? To many apex demigods, that was an absolute perception range. For example, Dongbu Shuiying's true meaning of star had reached the stage 1 realm. His absolute perception range was 50 kilometers away from him. I'm 150 kilometers away from him, but he didn't sense me. Dongbu Shuiying continued moving closer. 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 50 kilometers. He's still sleeping. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head inwardly. This thunder demigod's comprehension of the laws of profound mysteries should be weaker. South Dongbu Shuiying continued exploring the other regions. It was good news that the thunder demigod hadn't discovered him. Clearly, he was trying to sense a life form flying past him in the mirage. The requirement for one's cultivation realm was too high. This thunder demigod lived in a major transcendent world, isolated from the outside world. He had no enemies and lived a carefree life. His cultivation realm was probably lacking. He was stronger in terms of his physique and bloodline talent. At least this proves one thing. A weaker demigod wouldn't be able to discover me in the mirage. Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself. Back at the Black Wind Deity Palace, the gold man and the black rat couldn't discover him either. However, the deity warriors were lacking in terms of cultivation realm. This thunder demigod was a true life form, and his cultivation realm might be higher than the deity warriors. But he still couldn't discover him. I hope the demon generals won't be able to discover me either. Dongbu Shuiying hoped. As long as they couldn't discover him, he would be able to wipe them all out. Without the 5 demon generals, the remaining weak demon generals wouldn't pose much of a threat. It was fine if the demon generals didn't move, but once they did, it would be a calamity. It was normal for hundreds of millions of mortals to die. As he flew, Dongbu Shuiying was surprised to discover another native demigod. This was a 6-meter-tall man with dark blue hair and blue skin. However, from the aura he emitted, he should be much weaker than the thunder demigod. He should be at the level of a veteran demigod. Relying on his 3 grade 2 true meanings, he might be able to defeat him. This time Dongbu Shuiying was within the mirage. He was only 10 meters away from this native demigod, but this native demigod didn't notice him at all. Because Dongbu Shuiying wanted to test whether he could be discovered while walking in the mirage, the location of the treasure was his final destination. After flying for more than half the distance, Dongbu Shuiying finally revealed an excited expression. Wow! The origin stone mine! Dongbu Shuiying was excited. More than 300 kilometers underground, there was a long and thin mine. Within the mine there were many origin stones. These origin stones were all wrapped by rocks and other miscellaneous items. If one were to peel away the rocks and other miscellaneous items, one would be able to discover the origin stones. The origin stones were gray and unremarkable. They were shaped like cobblestones and had an extremely smooth surface. These origin stones contained the most primordial world energy. They were the source of this large-scale transcendent world. That's right. Excavating these origin stones was equivalent to excavating the source of this large-scale transcendent world. If one excavated too many of them, it would cause this large-scale transcendent world to collapse, and eventually it would be destroyed. However, after the Great Calamity, this large-scale transcendent world would gradually be nurtured. It would absorb external energy to replenish itself before giving birth to a new large-scale transcendent world. Everyone, throw some recommendation votes. Chapter 232. Senior Warrior. I'll have to trouble you to help me excavate the origin stone mine. Dongbu Shuiying transmitted his spirit force to the green-gray bracelet on his wrist. I've checked. There's a total of 2,900,000 kilograms of origin stones here. You just need to excavate 1,800,000 kilograms. Leaving 1,500,000 kilograms should be enough. Don't excavate too much. If you excavate too much, this large-scale world will collapse. It will take 30,000 years for it to recover. The Xia people won't be able to excavate again in 30,000 years. Don't worry, I know. A ripple came from the green-gray bracelet. Sorry for the trouble. Dongbu Shuiying waved his hand. The green-gray bracelet was thrown out of the mirage and into the real world by Dongbu Shuiying. Instantly, the green-gray bracelet transformed into a large amount of green-gray energy. The energy permeated into the origin stone mine, easily shattering the rocks and the origin stones within. You have to be careful when excavating the origin stones. It will take about an hour. The green-gray energy emitted a low voice. Oh right, Snow Eagle, do you intend to tell the Xia people about this large-scale world? In the near future, I will tell Palace Lord Chan, Dongbo Shuiying said. At that time, I will also tell him about the plan to find the demon generals. Killing the demon generals will still depend on Palace Lord Chen's instructions. They would first search for the demon generals. Once they found them, they would surround and kill them. Before that, they would definitely inform Palace Lord Chan. Palace Lord Chan would then arrange for a group of demigods from the Xia people to work together. Hence, no matter what, Palace Lord Chan was the most important link. Dongbo Shuiying felt that there was no need to hide anything. As for this large-scale world, actually, to ordinary Sky and Saint Transcendence this was a huge treasure trove. But to Dongbo Shuiying it could be considered a treasure trove. However, after excavating the origin stones, this large-scale world would no longer be of much value to him. He had to leave behind more than 500,000 kilograms of origin stones. This was because these origin stones were the foundation of this large-scale world. If the remaining origin stones were less than 500,000 kilograms, it would not be enough to stabilize the large-scale world. The large-scale world would collapse and be destroyed. If they wanted to slowly nurture a new large-scale world, that would take more than 30,000 years. During this long period of time, the Xia people would not be able to excavate it. As long as 1 million kilograms of origin stones were left behind, the world would only need 3,000 years to recover. So don't dig it all out, leave a small part. The next generation of demigods could come and poach again. Of course, the prerequisite was that he could break through the obstruction of this large world's demigod natives. Back then, Elder Lei Zhan probably wanted to dig for it himself after he became a demigod. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. Senior Black Wind doesn't seem to care about it. However, he hid his treasures in this big world and didn't want to expose them. That's why he didn't make it public. He would take the treasures left behind by Senior Black Wind later. If this large-scale world was exposed, so be it. The origin stones in a large-scale world are around 3 million kilograms. Dongbo Shuiying thought, including this one, there are a total of 9 large-scale worlds. In total, it would be around 20 million kilograms of origin stones. In addition to the large number of small-scale transcendent worlds, the total amount of origin stones is not even 50 million kilograms. I'm afraid it might even be 40 million kilograms. This is the total amount. There are some large-scale worlds, such as the Fire Demon world, controlled by the Fire Demon Emperor, and the Oceanic Forest world, occupied by the Beast race. There is no hope for these 2 large-scale worlds. As for the other large-scale worlds, there are also demigod natives resisting them. The Beast race is still fighting for them. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. After 3,000 years, if the Xia people could dig out 20 million kilograms of origin stones, they would have to thank the heavens and earth. Sky Realm Transcendence, Saint Realm Transcendence, Demigod Transcendence, all of them. For people like Mountain Lord He and Si Kong Yang who had condensed their deity hearts and wanted to become gods, they needed even more origin stones. Thus the entire Xia people were really short on origin stones. Previously, Palace Lord Chun was afraid that Dongbo Shuiying would want to exchange for 2 million kilograms of origin stones in one go. One must know that origin stones were so scarce. The current treasury of the Xia people only had a little more than 3 million kilograms. They were really tight. Palace Lord Chen's heart ached. In view of Dongbo Shuiying's great contributions and potential, he was willing to give it to him even though his heart ached. Dongbo Shuiying also understood that it was not easy for Palace Lord Chun to be the leader. Thus, he did not want it and dug it himself. Just as Dongbo Shuiying was digging for origin stones in the large-scale worlds, beside the sea in a secluded castle. Within a quiet hall within the castle, 2 huge black oil lamps were burning. The green flames flickered, and a strange fragrance filled the entire hall. A figure shrouded in black fog stood alone. In front of him floated a crystal ball. On top of the crystal ball floated an image. In the image was a black-robed, white-haired elder holding a white bone staff. High Priest. The black-robed, white-haired elder smiled. Elder Aolan, why are you looking for me? The figure in the black fog asked. This black-robed, white-haired elder was the existence with the highest status in the Beast clan, the great elder of the Sorcerer God Palace. He was ranked third on the demigod list. Actually, both the Xia people and the Beast clan did not completely trust the demigod list. This was because the demigod list was created by the Xia people after collecting a lot of information. Many of the old fellows had not battled for hundreds of years. Who knew if their strength had increased? The demigod list could only be used as a reference. It was impossible to be completely sure. The strength that the demigod list recognized only represented the strength that had already been discovered. It's a very important matter. The black-robed, white-haired elder smiled. You also know that the amazing genius among the humans is called Dongbu Shui. He has already dealt with the threat of the evil demon's nests. He has even destroyed 3 evil demon's nests by himself. In the last one, not only did he kill Jier Luo, he also killed a small team of reincarnators that was even stronger than him. What are you trying to say? I was the one who told you this information. The figure in the black fog replied. I want to say, this Dongbu Shui has grasped hold of the legendary grade 2 true meaning. If he is allowed to grow, he will be above all the demigods of our era. The black-robed, white-haired elder said, this will be a huge threat to the plans of the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God. I feel that we need to eliminate him immediately. The sooner the better. Eliminate. The figure in the black fog said. If your Sorcerer God Palace wants to eliminate him, just do it. Why bother looking for me? If my Sorcerer God Palace and your demonic faction work together, we will have a higher chance of success. The black-robed, white-haired elder said. The plans of the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God cannot be destroyed. This threat must be eliminated. Humph. The figure in the black fog coldly snorted. All right, Olan, don't treat me as a fool. Whatever our Great Demon God and your Sorcerer God's plan requires our demonic faction to do, we will definitely do it, not a single one less. There is no need for us to do it, so don't tell us to foolishly risk our lives with just a few words. This Dongbu Shuiying's current strength is quite high. With the temperament of the Infernal Palace, they must have arranged for deity warriors to protect him. Want to kill him? That's too difficult. He is not worth our demonic faction paying such a huge price. High Priest, why are you so short-sighted? The black-robed, white-haired elder was somewhat angry. Humph, I do not dare to disobey the orders of the Great Demon God. Without the orders of the Great Demon God, what qualifications do you, an elder of the Sorcerer God Palace, have to instruct our demonic faction to do things? The figure in the black fog sneered. As for Dongbu Shuiying's threat, humph, I have long reported it to the Great Demon God. The Great Demon God will make his own decision. If you are really in a hurry, report it to your Sorcerer God and our Great Demon God for a discussion. The black-robed, white-haired elder was so angry that his face turned green. He had long reported it to his superiors. However, the Sorcerer God had only asked him to think of a solution himself. After all, the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God, these two big shots negotiations were not simple matters. The Sorcerer God was not willing to negotiate with the Great Demon God again just because of a mere Dongbu Shuiying. Good, you are really obedient. Then be obedient and do what you need to do. The Sorcerer God Palace's Great Elder was somewhat angry. The image dissipated. Humph, the figure in the black fog coldly snorted. Old man, if not for the orders of the Great Demon God, my demonic faction would not care about you beasts. Oh, in the large-scale transcendent world, Dongbu Shuiying collected the 1,800,000 kilograms of origin stones and quickly rushed towards the location where the Black Wind ancestor had placed the treasure. In a short moment, Dongbu Shuiying arrived at a lake. He directly dived into the lake and drilled into the depths of the lake. This was the location of the treasure marked on the map. The feeling of writing wasn't good. After some editing, he was finally able to write 1 chapter. He was still satisfied. The number of chapters he owed was now 3. Chapter 233. Beneath the lake, 300 li underground. Dongbu Shuiying, who was in the mirage, looked around curiously. Where's the treasure? Where's the treasure left behind by Senior Black Wind? Dongbu Shuiying was puzzled. He looked around carefully. The mirage that he controlled covered an area of 1,000 li. According to the map, the treasure should be here. The error shouldn't be more than 1 li. Why not? The mirage reflects reality. Treasures in the real world will be reflected in the mirage as well. Why can't I find it? Could it be that after hundreds of thousands of years, the treasure was discovered by a transcendent? Dongbu Shuiying shook his head lightly. Can't be such a coincidence. This is a large-scale world, and it's deep underground. That black rat also said that other than the naked eye, no other methods can detect it. These transcendent natives can only be detected with the naked eye. To find a treasure in the vast large-scale world, and with such a small number of transcendent natives, they still managed to find it. They must be really lucky. But I can't find it. Dongbu Shuiying frowned and looked around carefully. He was very confident in the mirage. Anything that existed in the real world should be reflected in the mirage. Could it be? Dongbu Shuiying suddenly thought of a possibility. His expression changed. The black rat said that other than the naked eye, no other methods can detect it. Could it be that the mirage can't reflect it? That shouldn't be possible. The real world and the mirage were two sides of the same coin. The mirage reflecting reality was one of the basic rules of nature. If a treasure from the real world could not be reflected in the mirage, this was something that surpassed the basic rules of nature. Even some powerful deities could only isolate themselves from the real world. To prevent the mirage from reflecting reality, the difficulty was much higher. Dongbu Shuiying previously thought that the black rat said that it could only be seen with the naked eye. The mirage reality reflection technique, which was based on the laws of heaven and earth, should not be among them. How is this possible? Even the mirage can't reflect it. How is this possible? Dongbu Shuiying mumbled to himself. Although he couldn't believe it, his body twisted and he passed through the ethereal realm, arriving in the real world. Either it was discovered by a transcendent native by luck and taken away, or the ethereal extent can't reflect this treasure. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. However, he still chose to travel through the mud. Borrowing the true intent of Star, he became one with the rocks and mud, easily traversing through them. Using his naked eyes to look at the rocks and mud, it was too slow to search with his naked eyes. How long would it take to see everything with the naked eye? Boom! Dongbu Shuiying decided to control the heaven and earth energy to attack the surrounding rocks and soil. At the same time, he also used the heaven and earth energy to isolate the surrounding 10 li, isolating all sound waves. He didn't want to alert those transcendent natives. Countless rocks and soil were wantonly kneaded by the invisible hands. One moment they were kneaded into a big pancake. The next moment they were kneaded into balls. Finally, an ordinary cloth bag was found. What? Dongbu Shuiying looked at the cloth bag in a daze. He estimated that it was only a meter long, an ordinary cloth bag. The opening of the bag was tied up. If an ordinary mortal saw this cloth bag, he wouldn't be surprised. Even if a demigod saw this cloth bag, he would only think that it was a unique treasure. The ethereal extent is actually unable to reflect it? Dongbu Shuiying looked at this ordinary cloth bag in disbelief. The ethereal extent reflects reality. This is one of the fundamental laws of the world. But this law is ineffective on this cloth bag? Dongbu Shuiying did not dare believe it. True meaning of extremity, true meaning of black hole, true meaning of splitting heavens, true meaning of primal chaos. These were all grade 1 true meanings. They represented the core essence of the laws of the world. As for the true meaning of space, true meaning of annihilation, true meaning of mirage, and many others, they were all extremely high grade 2 true meanings. These were also considered fundamental laws of the world. A world? Without the law of space, what was it? Without the law of mirage? Without the law of annihilation? In that case, this world would be incomplete and incomplete. These fundamental laws were very hard to overcome. One could rely on their strength to forcefully isolate them. For example, suppressing a space, cutting a space, sealing a world. All of these were direct attacks that could suppress the world. But this cloth bag actually prevented the ethereal extent from reflecting the world. This was no longer a case of brute force. Instead, it was simply making the laws ineffective. What exactly is the origin of this cloth bag? Dongbo Shuiying immediately flew over and grabbed it. Just as he was about to untie the cloth bag, he discovered that the surface of the cloth bag was faintly covered with black runes. An unseen force was preventing him from opening the cloth bag. Oh right, the key. Dongbo Shuiying came to a realization. Back then the black rat had even given him a key. An octagonal black talisman. Return. With a thought, Dongbo Shuiying kept the cloth bag into his storage treasure. Following which he had a strange feeling. As the owner of the storage treasure, he could sense that there was an additional object in the storage space. But when he tried to sense it carefully, he could not see anything. This is too mysterious. Many laws are ineffective in front of it. Hua. Traversing through the ethereal extent, Dongbo Shuiying immediately began his return journey. This time, he was afraid that the native demigod's cultivation base was too high, and he might be able to discover him and even attack him while he was in the ethereal extent. Thus, he only sent a battle chi clone over. Naturally, he did not bring the most important treasure, the key. Without the key, even if the clone were to die, it would be a small matter. The deity world's warrior was illusory, and he could escape. But if the key and the treasure were to fall into the hands of the native transcendent, the consequences would be dire. On the crystalline walls of the Black Wind Deity Palace's underground hall, 100-meter-tall door appeared. Wang, a red-robed Dongbo Shuiying, passed through the door and arrived at the underground hall. Following him, he continued to walk through the ethereal extent and arrived at a completely sealed meditation room in the Black Wind Deity Palace. In this meditation room there was another figure, the black-robed Dongbo Shuiying. It was the main body. After the black-robed Dongbo Shuiying put down the dark green talisman key, he turned around and left through the ethereal extent. Why did the main body leave? Why did he open the cloth bag in the sealed secret room of the Black Wind Deity Palace? It was because he was worried. After discovering that the cloth bag could cause the laws of the ethereal extent to be ineffective, Dongbo Shuiying felt very uneasy. This was beyond his ability to deal with. As far as he knew, even many deities couldn't do this. Furthermore, Senior Black Wind had created a terrifying existence before his death. This caused Dongbo Shuiying to be wary of this cloth bag. Open the cloth bag? What would happen? There were many layers of formations in the Black Wind Deity Palace, enough to suppress all sorts of variables. If he let his chi avatar handle everything here, even if the avatar was destroyed, it would only take 2 to 3 years for it to recover. But with the main body here, if it was destroyed, he would lose his life. Let's begin. I want to see what's hidden in the cloth bag that Senior Black Wind left behind. The red-robed Dongbo Shuiying moved his mind. Although his consciousness could not see, he still forcefully threw out the strange object from his storage space. Pa! The cloth bag landed in the sealed meditation room. Following that, he took the octagonal dark green talisman key and walked to the side of the cloth bag. As he approached, dark green runes immediately appeared on the surface of the cloth bag. Wang, the dark green runes circulated, and the octagonal dark green talisman key also began to emit light. The two lights intertwined, and the runes on the talisman key flew out, completely embedding with the runes on the cloth bag. Without a sound, this layer of dark green runes completely dissipated, and the talisman key also completely cracked. Alright, it's open. Dongbo Shuiying was a little nervous. He walked to the front of the cloth bag and carefully untied the knot on the cloth bag. Asterisk asterisk. Chapter 234. Opening the pouch, Dongbo Shuiying looked inside. There were only 2 items in the pouch, a dark gold wristband and a crystal ball. The dark gold wristband glowed faintly, making it look extraordinary. As for the crystal ball, it was relatively ordinary. That's all. Retrieving the 2 items, he placed them on the ground. Taking a closer look, the pouch was completely empty. There was nothing else inside. Wang! The crystal ball on the ground suddenly emitted a bright light. This caused Dongbo Shuiying to be shocked as he turned his head to take a look. The light from the crystal ball formed a human silhouette. It was an old man with long black hair. His eyes were cold and domineering. I am Black Wind. The old man with long black hair said coldly, "Senior Black Wind?" Dongbo Shuiying's heart thumped. He knew that this was an image left in the crystal ball. The real ancestor Black Wind had died a long time ago. Looking at the image, this ancestor Black Wind should be an extremely domineering and ruthless person. Who would have thought that the strongest demigod in the past million years would have such a demeanor? Ancestor Black Wind was invincible in the past. In order to become a demigod, he did something crazy and increased his strength once again. Hence, this ancestor Black Wind's strength had increased to a terrifying level. He had far surpassed the demigods of this era, and could be said to be the strongest demigod in the past million years. To be able to receive this message of mine, your strength should be close to mine. The old man with long black hair said coldly, "You should be the strongest among the Xia people of this era." Dongbo Shuiying mumbled to himself. Close? He was still far from that level. He would not be able to defeat the 5 shadows and the black rat if he fought them head-on. He would also not be able to break through the frightening spirit designs at the back. He had only succeeded by walking within the Mirage realm. As the strongest demigod among the Xia people of this era, you have the ability to shoulder the responsibility for the Xia people. Ancestor Black Wind said coldly, "I am not asking you to go now. However, you can wait until the end of your lifespan before you take on this responsibility." Responsibility? Dongbo Shuiying was puzzled. You may be very confused and you may not understand. Ancestor Black Wind said coldly, "It's also possible that your generation's infernal palace lord has already told you this secret. No matter what, I will tell you this secret first." Dongbo Shuiying listened attentively. Patriarch Black Wind was involved in many secrets that even Palace Lord Chun refused to divulge. The operation of the world is full of many unknowns. Patriarch Black Wind's eyes were filled with a strange luster, as though he was saying something unrelated. From the moment a world is born, life is born. This is a very normal situation. According to the law, after a long period of time, the world would gradually age and even collapse. The Xia people, the transcendent natives, and the Beast clan will all be annihilated. After the great calamity, the Xia people's world will give birth to a new world of mortals, reproducing life. Perhaps there will still be humans, but they will no longer be our Xia people. However, for a world to gradually age and even collapse, it can be considered a complete reincarnation. Patriarch Black Wind said, "Sometimes, a world will collapse prematurely due to unexpected circumstances." Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Right. For example, those small and large transcendent worlds, if their origin stone mines were excavated excessively, the transcendent world would collapse prematurely. Similarly, the more stable, larger, and more perfect mortal world could also collapse prematurely. However, the mortal world was too stable. It was very difficult for it to collapse prematurely. The mortal world is very stable. Under normal circumstances, it would be able to recover. Patriarch Black Wind frowned. In the year 56005 of the Dongho calendar, something that could cause the destruction of our Xia people's world happened. Year 56005 of the Dongho calendar? Dongbo Shuiying immediately calculated in his heart. This was something that happened 1,000,000 years ago. The Dongho emperor was one of the ancestors of the Xia people who became a deity. It could cause the destruction of the mortal world? 1,000,000 years ago, what exactly happened? It was noon, a seemingly ordinary day. Suddenly, a fiery red light descended from the sky. This fiery red light penetrated through the entire material world and all the barriers of the mortal world, falling into our Xia people's world. Patriarch Black Wind said. When it fell, the surrounding area of 100,000 kilometers was turned into ruins. All living beings were wiped out. In fact, 2 of our Xia people's transcendents died. One of them was even a demigod. Dongbo Shuiying's heart trembled when he heard this. The might of the fall had affected a radius of 100,000 kilometers. If a demigod wanted to, his attack would be able to cover a radius of 500 kilometers. However, in a normal battle, the might of the attack would be condensed and not scattered. Thus, the radius of the battle would not be too large. Normally, a demigod of the Xia people's attack would affect a radius of tens of kilometers. The greater the radius of the attack, the harder it would be to transmit. A mere fall could affect a radius of 100,000 kilometers? This was even more terrifying than a deity. This is nothing, Patriarch Black Wind said. After it fell, a group of otherworldly guests arrived. Groups of reincarnators from the temporal temple also rushed over. According to the rumors, these otherworldly guests and reincarnators from the temporal temple are the true peak demigods. Most of them are comparable to me in strength. Some of them are even stronger than me. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed when he heard this. Even stronger than Patriarch Black Wind? And otherworldly guests, one must know that the mortal world was very stable. It was very difficult for life forms from the mortal world to enter. For example, the dark abyss would occasionally form a passageway. There was no pattern to it. At most, some demons would occasionally enter. If otherworldly guests wanted to enter, there was only one way: to ask the temporal temple to send them to a mortal world. Sending goods in and sending people in were two different things. The price was much higher. That fiery red light fell. So many experts rushed over? You guessed it. Yes, it's that fiery red light that fell. Patriarch Black Wind said. The deity world and even the dark abyss have sent their demigods over. There are even reincarnators from the temporal temple. For the sake of that fiery red stream of light, they had come in batches, but they had died in batches. Very, very few had survived. Not even 1 out of 10 survived. At that time, our Xia clan was trembling with fear as we watched everything unfold. Only 2 demigods went in to investigate, but they never returned. During that period of time, our Xia clan was like a fish in a pond that was caught in a calamity and suffered greatly. There was no other way. They were sent by the great powers of the deity world and the dark abyss. They were all peak demigods. Because they suffered too many casualties, and the price of sending experts over was too high. These otherworldly guests became fewer and fewer. Patriarch Black Wind said, but every few tens of thousands of years, there would still be a batch of otherworldly guests. Firstly, as long as they came out alive, they would be able to bring some treasures with them. Secondly, the great powers of the deity world and the dark abyss still desired to obtain the fallen treasure. This fallen treasure is a mountain, Patriarch Black Wind said. According to our interactions with the otherworldly guests and the reincarnators of the temporal temple, this mountain is called the Crimson Rock Mountain. It is also the source of the threat that could destroy our mortal world. Chapter 235. Crimson Rock Mountain is 100,000 li deep beneath the surface of the Xia people's world. It's very special. Ancestor Black Wind frowned, his eyes filled with reminiscence. It's as if all the natural laws of the world are ineffective before it. In terms of time and space, it's transcendent. It's like a tiny speck, smaller than a grain of sand. But the closer you get to it, the bigger it gets. It's so big that it seems boundless. You can't use space to describe how big or small it is. In terms of time, it's even more mysterious. Only those who enter it know how terrifying it is. Only then do you understand that if anything happens to it, it could easily destroy the entire Xia people's world. Dongbo Shuiying was puzzled. Transcending time and space? Even its size couldn't be described? What was this thing? Foolish infernal palace lord. He didn't understand the threat that the Xia people faced. I requested to bring a deity weapon into Crimson Rock Mountain, but he refused. Ancestor Black Wind raged. If I had a deity weapon, my strength would soar. I would obtain even more in Crimson Rock Mountain. I would even have the chance to become a god. Didn't I leave all the treasures I obtained to the Xia people? I even used my 5 shadows to exchange for a deity weapon, but he still refused. The 5 shadows are 5 deity world warriors. The strongest 2 of them aren't any weaker than the deity world warriors sent down by the ancestors of the Xia people. Damn it. Stupid. Short-sighted. Patriarch Black Wind's eyes were filled with bloodlust and anger. Later on, I conducted experiments in a major transcendental world. From the matter extracted from the corpse of an unknown creature, I managed to nurture a special life form. As that special life form matured, its strength rapidly increased. Although I couldn't bear to destroy it, I still took action. But this special life form had been hiding its strength. When I attacked, it could actually suppress me. I fled to the Black Wind Deity Palace, but it chased me out. With the help of the Black Wind Deity Palace, I killed it. I was already nearing the end of my lifespan. After this war, I don't have much time left. But this proves one point. Just the corpse of the life form I obtained is already so terrifying. It could cause a catastrophe for the Xia people. Crimson Rock Mountain is definitely a huge threat. Since the Infernal Palace is so short-sighted, I shall not leave any of my treasures to them. Since you were able to pass the test, I'm afraid that your strength is not much different from mine. Furthermore, with the help of these 7 Deity World Warriors, you'll be more confident in the Crimson Rock Mountain. Patriarch Black Wind said coldly, "There is no hope for me. I hope that the future generations of the Xia people will continue searching. We can't always hope that Crimson Rock Mountain won't encounter any big problems. We have to take the initiative to obtain more. What a pity. It's a pity that I couldn't open the Divine Sea and become a deity." Patriarch Black Wind's eyes were filled with a hint of indignation. "I've handed all my treasures to you. Remember, you must be careful with the biological corpses. Don't mess around with them to prevent any more trouble." After saying that, Ancestor Black Wind's figure completely dissipated. The light from the crystal ball also completely disappeared. Dongwu Shuiying looked at everything. So that was how it was. The reason for the conflict between Ancestor Black Wind and that generation's Infernal Palace Master was actually because of a divine artifact? Truthfully speaking, Dongwu Shuiying was more inclined towards the Infernal Palace Master's side. That was because there were too few deity weapons. Every single deity weapon had been painstakingly passed down by the ancestors of the Xia clan. Crimson Rock Mountain was simply too dangerous. The superpowers from the deity world and the Dark Abyss had sent several peak demigods over. Yet they had all died in batches. Not even 1 out of 10 had survived. One had to know that most of them were on par with Ancestor Black Wind. Some were even stronger than him. Clearly Crimson Rock Mountain was too dangerous. If one were to bring a divine artifact in and die, the divine artifact would be lost in Crimson Rock Mountain. Actually, what Ancestor Black Wind said about the destruction of the Xia people's world was just an alarmist. Dongwu Shuiying thought to himself, after all, the deity world and Dark Abyss had sent so many peak demigod experts in, yet they were unable to truly subdue this Crimson Rock Mountain. Do you think it's so easy to solve this problem? No matter how much Ancestor Black Wind said, he still wanted to bring the divine artifact in and search for the opportunity to become a deity. The Infernal Palace was definitely considering things from the perspective of the Xia people. Losing a divine artifact this time, losing another one the next time. If they were to act recklessly, the strength of the Xia people would continuously weaken. Dongwu Shuiying kept the crystal ball and picked up the other item in the sack, the dark gold bracelet. The moment he touched it, he easily refined it. Good fellow, what a huge space. Dongwu Shuiying's eyes lit up. This must be the biggest storage treasure I've ever obtained. The dark gold bracelet contained a shocking storage space. It was 500 meters in length, width, and height. Inside there was a huge pile of gray and unassuming stones. They were origin stones. 6 million kilograms of origin stones? Dongwu Shuiying confirmed it with a single check. He could not help but be overjoyed. It seems like Ancestor Black Wind had also plundered the origin stones from that large-scale transcendent world. Moreover, Ancestor Black Wind had probably cultivated to the peak, so he did not expend much of the origin stones. He actually left so many for me, including the 8 million kilograms I obtained. That's a total of 4 million kilograms. Heavens! This was an extremely shocking number. No matter how many contribution points the demigods of the Xia people had, the Infernal Palace would only exchange for 5 million kilograms. They were not willing to give any more. If one wanted more, they could exchange with other demigods and dig for more in large-scale transcendent worlds. With more than 3 million kilograms of origin stones in hand, one must know how much the Xia people had dug. Moreover, most of them had been used up by the transcendents. Hence, Dongwu Shuiying suspected that he was the transcendent with the most origin stones. Ancestor Black Wind's treasures are indeed extraordinary. Dongbu Shuang saw a few other miscellaneous treasures. These were not worth much. Talismans. There was also a pile of talismans. The most eye-catching among them were 7 deity world warrior talismans. The materials used were obviously different. The rest were all refiner talismans. There were many refiner organisms in the Black Wind deity palace. Dongbu Shuang could guess that the large amount of transcendent materials used by the Black Dragon were probably obtained from the Crimson Rock Mountain. These 3 refiner organisms' corpses? Dongbu Shuang looked at them in shock. His heart tightened. There were 3 unique corpses floating in the storage space. The tallest was a mutated beast with 4 hooves that was over 100 meters long. Its entire body was covered with long hair. The hair covered the entire corpse, and even its head could not be seen clearly. The smallest corpse was only 3 meters tall. It was in the shape of a human, and its body was naturally covered with scales. There was even hair on its head, and there were a total of 12 curved horns on its head. The last refiner corpse was 6 meters tall. It was also in the shape of a human, but it had a pair of inverted joints and 6 curved horns on its head. Their auras were extremely terrifying. Even through the storage space, Dongbu Shuang's heart tightened. His legs could not help but turn soft. One must know that his current strength was quite high. Even if he were to face a deity, he would not feel this way. Could it be that they were stronger than gods when they were alive? Dongbu Shuang thought about how the Black Wind ancestor had almost caused a catastrophe because he had taken some of the materials from the refiner organisms' corpses to experiment on. Before I have absolute strength and confidence, I will not give these 3 refiner organisms' corpses to anyone. I will keep them for the time being to prevent those transcendent wizards from experimenting on them. Transcendent wizards love to experiment on their bloodlines and souls. How many of them would be able to resist experimenting on the refiner organisms' corpses? After inspecting the treasures left behind by the Black Wind ancestor, Dongbu Shuang immediately started to refine the talismans. As for the so-called Crimson Rock Mountain, he was not interested in it at all. With the strength of the Black Wind ancestor, or even those stronger than the Black Wind ancestor, if they were to enter in batches, it would be difficult for even 1 out of 10 of them to survive. Would Dongbu Shuang be tired of living? Perhaps when he was nearing the end of his lifespan, he would go in and take the risk. Before this, Dongbu Shuang did not have the slightest intention of doing so. Perhaps the Black Wind ancestor had gone crazy because he was nearing the end of his lifespan? If the Black Wind ancestor had only lived for 200 or 300 years, he would not have taken the risk either. Rumble. The sealed door of the isolation chamber opened automatically. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. One after another, figures as fast as phantoms appeared. They were the black rat that was half the height of a human, the gold man with a vigorous aura, the cold and indifferent child, the incomparably seductive and beautiful woman, the handsome red-haired youth, the gray-robed man, and the illusory ape formed by the white fog. The 7 deity soldiers were extremely respectful and excited. Greetings, Master. Chapter 236. The 7 of them did not expect to be freed so soon. After all, it was still dangerous to go to a major transcendent world to retrieve treasures. Demigod natives were not to be trifled with. Give me a brief description of your strength. Dongbu Shuang looked at the 7 in front of him, and could not suppress the excitement in his heart. 7 deity world warriors. This was an extremely tyrannical and terrifying combat strength. Not including the true meaning of mirage, the weakest white fog ape was comparable to him. The other 6 were much stronger than him. Master, my name is Bayamo. The black rat said. My first master gave me this name. I am the leader of the 5 shadows, Gold Devil. The gold man's voice was powerful. I am ranked 2nd among the 5 shadows, Holy Child. The calm and indifferent child's eyes were still filled with coldness and boundless darkness. I am ranked 3rd among the 5 shadows, Gentle Beauty. The enchanting woman smiled slightly. In terms of appearance, this woman had reached the pinnacle of perfection in Dongbu Shuang's eyes. Her appearance and figure were all perfect. Every smile and frown could move one's soul. However, compared to his Jingqiu, there was still a slight difference. Jingqiu's appearance might be slightly weaker than this enchanting woman's, But Jingqiu had a feeling. This feeling could be called human nature. Deity world warriors also had spirituality, but they were so perfect that they did not seem like humans. I am ranked 4th battle general. The red-haired handsome youth said in high spirits, Master, if you have any enemies to deal with, let me handle them. I am ranked 5th blade master. The gray-robed man did not say much. The last white fog ape said, I am called Wu Lei. I am the weakest among the 7. The gold man continued, in terms of strength, Water Rat and second brother are close to me. I am the strongest when it comes to frontal attacks. Water Rat is best at protecting people. Second brother is more balanced. He is second only to Water Rat when it comes to protecting people. In terms of attack, he is second only to me. The 3 of us are close to the limit of deity world warriors under the restrictions of the mortal world's laws. Dongbu Shuiying was overjoyed when he heard this. 3 deity world warriors that were close to the limit? Third brother is good at charm and assassination. Number 4 and number 5 are attacking from the front. The gold man said we, the 5 shadows, were refined by the same expert from the celestial realm. The material used was the celestial realm shadow wood. So the 5 of us were born with the ability to enter the shadow dimension. To us, the shadow dimension is as simple as breathing. Even if we were to live in the shadow dimension forever, it would still be effortless. Thus, we are collectively known as the 5 shadows. Walking through the shadow dimension. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes lit up. To be able to live in the shadow space forever, this was not inferior to grasping the first stage of the true meaning of shadow space. The 5 of them were definitely experts in assassination. Of course, compared to Dongbu Shuiying, who was walking in the mirage, there was still a huge gap between them. Hurry up and clean up the Black Wind Deity Palace. Take whatever you can. Dongbu Shuiying instructed. We'll meet up in the main hall later. Yes. The 7 deity warriors bowed. After a while, at the entrance of the Black Wind Deity Palace, the red-robed Dongbu Shuiying walked out. Behind him were 7 deity warriors and 12 refiner organisms. Master. In front of Dongbu Shuiying was a huge black dragon. The black dragon's body was huge, and it could only obediently extend its head in front of Dongbu Shuiying. At the same time, it lowered its head obediently. Its 2 huge golden eyes were looking at Dongbu Shuiying excitedly. You are too formidable. I never expected that I would be able to regain my freedom so quickly. Haha, I the black dragon can finally leave this place. You can't leave yet, Dongbu Shuiying said. Ah! The black dragon's 2 huge golden eyes immediately widened. I have already obtained the treasures of the Black Wind Deity Palace. I don't wish to reveal it for the time being and let the entire world know about it, Dongbu Shuiying said. Thus, you and the refiner organisms behind you should temporarily stay in the Black Wind Abyss. Continue to guard this place as per usual and confuse the others. I can't, Master. The black dragon roared anxiously. I have waited for this day for far too long. Why can the 7 of them leave but I can't? Could it be that I, the old dragon, am the weakest? Even if I can't compare to the 7 of them, I am still stronger than the 12 Saint rank refiner organisms. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. This has nothing to do with strength. It's just that you, the black dragon, are too famous. Everyone knows that there is a black dragon standing guard outside the Black Wind Divine Palace. If you suddenly disappear, it will definitely attract attention. Your importance is higher than all of them. Therefore, anyone else can leave, but you must stay here for the time being. Oh! The black dragon lowered his head. He understood that if he were to leave, the secret of the Black Wind Deity Palace's treasures would be made public. Although there was nothing wrong with making it public, Dongbu Shuiying did not wish to make it public with the demon general spying on them. Master, how long do I have to wait? The black dragon looked at Dongbu Shuiying. His golden eyes were filled with anticipation. He really wanted to leave this place. If it's short, tens of years. If it's long, hundreds of years. Dongbu Shuiying said. All right. The black dragon replied obediently. He then turned his head and glanced at the refiner organisms beside him. These were the refiner organisms that had been guarding the Black Wind Abyss with him all these years. Did you hear that? Guard the Black Wind Abyss with me. This is Master's order. Dongbu Shuiying smiled and shook his head. He then waved his hand. The 7 deity warriors and 12 refiner organisms behind him were all stored away. This was also one of the reasons why Dongbu Shuiying was envious of these deity warriors. Each of them had an almost eternal lifespan and could even store items in their storage space. Xiu. In an instant, he turned into a ray of light and appeared on top of Snowrock Mountain 100 miles away. Standing high up in the sky above Snowrock Mountain, the sky was dark. It was already evening. Dongbu Shuiying looked into the distance. When he became a transcendent, his transcendent physique allowed him to clearly see a small earthworm 100 miles away. Now that his strength had increased, although the battle chi clone formed from transcendent battle chi did not have a qualitative improvement in terms of vision, it was still much better than when he had just become a transcendent. However, it was still much better than when he had just become a transcendent. He could even see some cities that were 10,000 miles away, just that they were a little blurry. Within a 10,000-mile radius, as far as his eyes could see, there were countless mountain villages and small towns, as well as many cities. Within the cities, there were faint lights and a dense flow of people. Countless mortals lead different kinds of lives. Some work hard to make a living, while others indulge in sensual pleasures. Dongbu Shuiying said softly. However, there are still those damned evil demons hiding behind them, especially the evil demon generals. The evil demon generals are currently in hibernation and have yet to erupt. The moment they make a move, the number of mortals who will be killed or injured will be in the hundreds of millions. Evil demon generals. To them, the mortal world was a land of dreams. The human souls in the material world were a great supplement to them. Right now they are all in hibernation, devouring the human souls offered by the weak evil demons. The more they eat, the more beneficial it is to them. Their strength is also gradually improving. Either they become demonic gods or too many weak evil demons have died. Hence, not many human souls have been contributed. When that time comes, I'm afraid the evil demon generals will bare their fangs. They will wantonly devour the human souls. I'm afraid they can easily annihilate all the humans in a county. One-on-one, the demigods of the Xia people will not be able to kill them. Only the strongest demigods of the Xia people can join forces and kill one of them. With the strength of the Xia people, we might be able to annihilate them. But how many people will die? Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. Even demigods would probably fall. As for the mortals, it was simply unimaginable. Next, I have to find these evil demon generals. Once I find them, I'll surround and kill them. Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself. However, I have to verify if they will notice me when I walk in the Mirage Realm. And I'll set off tomorrow. I'll first look for faction head Si Kongyang and vice faction head Chao to verify. That night, Dongbu Shuiying was having dinner with his family. Dongbu Shuiying did not intend to tell his family about the deity warriors. There was no benefit in telling them. However, he had already decided on how to distribute the 7 deity warriors. The chopsticks in Jing Qiu's hand fell to the ground. Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed. A piece of news came. Puyang Bo dead in battle. Dead in Spring Sun City. Senior Puyang. Jing Qiu could not believe it. Puyang. Dongbu Shuiying's face was pale, and his heart was in his throat. The group of transcendents from the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world had not died in the past 20 years. But now, the 5 transcendent worlds' demon lairs had been eradicated, and some had taken the initiative to escape. Just when the transcendents of the Xia clan were celebrating. How long had it been? Just a month. The new year had just ended, and Puyang Bo had already died in battle? Puyang Bo had a good relationship with Dongbu Shuiying in Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. His ranking there had always been last. It was only after Dongbu Shuiying was reprimanded by faction head Si Kongyang that Dongbu Shuiying was demoted to last place, and Puyang Bo was second last. Puyang Bo, Yufeng and Zhangpeng. The 4 of them were the last 4. He was rather pitiful during those 10 years, and the elders of the Xia people were very disappointed in Dongbu Shuiying. At that time, some of his fellow disciples in Scarlet Cloud Mountain world started to keep their distance from Dongbu Shuiying. However, Puyang Bo, Yufeng and Zhangpeng did not. They had always treated Dongbu Shuiying like a brother. Later on, Jing Qiu and Yuanqing also joined them. Puyang, my brother. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes were filled with tears. How did this happen? The demon nests had already been eradicated. Although they knew that there would still be transcendents dying in the future, the threat had already been greatly reduced. Furthermore, Pu Yang was most proficient in teleportation. He could even teleport during battle. But he still died? He was still young. After so many years of hard work, he finally managed to woo a female transcendent. Did he die just like that? Senior brother Pu Yang, Jing Qiu looked at Dongbui Shuiying beside her. In the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, she was the closest to Dongbui Shuiying. Even though she had joined the sect late, her relationship with Pu Yangbo was still very good. After being together for so many years, how could she not be sad when senior brother Pu Yang died? However, she understood that Dongbui Shuiying and Pu Yangbo's relationship was even closer. Back then, they were the last few transcendents, but they were truly like brothers. Father, mother. Dongbui Shuiying stood up and controlled his sorrowful emotions. Let's go out for a while. After saying that, Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu immediately left the dining hall. The two of them rapidly soared into the sky. Let's go to Spring Sun City. Dongbui Shuiying waved his hand. Sila, space itself was forcefully torn apart. Holding onto Jing Qiu's hand, he directly flew into the Terran space. Chapter 237. Spring Sun City was a city in the western part of the continent, in the Bright Sand province. Spring Sun City was built on an oasis, and around it was a boundless desert. In fact, the entire Bright Sand province was a province on top of a desert. Its land area was much larger than a normal province, and the population was sparse. It was normal for there to be no signs of human habitation within thousands of kilometers. Sila, in the sky above Spring Sun City, a pitch-black spatial crack appeared, and a young man and woman flew out of it, arriving in the sky above Spring Sun City. Looking down, using the true meaning of star to sense the surrounding space, the area within 100 kilometers around him was an absolute perception domain. Spring Sun City was just a small city similar to Water Rights Town, so the perception domain could easily cover it. Over there, Dongbui Shuiying brought Jing Qiu, and with a schwa, they teleported into the city. Beside a street in the city, there was a huge crater over 100 meters wide. The area around the crater had already been sealed off, forbidding mortals from approaching. Snow Eagle. There were already two figures standing beside the crater. One was the current number 1 expert, Mountain Lord He, and the other was the other demigod of the Black-White Deity Mountain, Ghost Deity Knight Feng Dong. Feng Dong's entire body emitted a dark and gloomy aura. This person could be considered one of the more ordinary demigods, and his most famous incident was when he was defeated by the Saint Realm Transcendent Qi Qiu Bai. Mountain Lord He, Vice Mountain Lord Feng. Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu both greeted. You and that brat Pu Yang were fellow disciples in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, right? Mountain Lord He sighed. I didn't think that I would be so happy when you got rid of those demon nests before the new year. It's only been a month, but that brat Pu Yang actually died in battle. He was an expert in teleportation. Could it be that one of those powerful rank 5 demons instantly killed Pu Yang in one move? How ruthless! Feng Dong said coldly, instantly killed. Not even leaving behind Pu Yangbo's weapons or treasures, Dongbui Shuiying and Jing Qiu stood in front of the crater. Looking at the 100-meter-wide crater, Pu Yang. Dongbui Shuiying's eyes were filled with killing intent as he said in a low voice, "These damned demons! How many?" Each and every one of them were good friends. Some of them had only drunk with him a few times, while some of them had much deeper friendships. When they were at Scarlet Cloud Mountain, they had truly interacted with each other day and night, day after day, year after year, more than 20 years. After staying in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain for such a long time, even if they were family, how many of them would be able to stay together almost every day for more than 20 years? Dongbui Shuiying had long treated Yufeng, Pu Yangbo, and Zhang Peng as his good brothers. There was also the youngest, Yuan Qing. Pu Yang, I will avenge you. Tomorrow I will go look for the demon general. Dongbui Shuiying tried his best to suppress his emotions. His transcendent friends had died in battle. He had experienced this many times over the years. However, his heart still ached. Other than Dongbu Shuiying and the rest who came to pay their respects, Xikongyang, Gongyu and Qi Qiubai also rushed over. They were teachers in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. The one who had taught Pu Yongbo before, Xikongyang, had always hated Pu Yongbo for failing to meet his expectations. However, at this moment, he could only sigh and suppress the anger in his heart. This group of young transcendents that he had taught, he might not be satisfied with them, but that was only in terms of cultivation. After interacting with them for a long time, these young transcendents were like his sons and nephews. Pu Yongbo's death caused Xikongyang to feel terrible as well. However, they suppressed this anger in their hearts. They understood. The war with the demons and the destruction of the demon's nest was only to make the Xia people's transcendents' lives easier. However, this did not mean that the Xia people's transcendents would not die. Furthermore, the most terrifying thing was that the 5 demon generals were still alive. They were all lying in ambush. If they did not get rid of the demon generals, this war would not end. The next morning, Dongbu Shuiying left Snowrock Castle alone. Although he wanted to find the demon generals immediately, before that, he had to confirm how powerful his true meaning of mirage was in terms of scouting. Would he be discovered instead? Sela first, he tore open a crack in space and headed towards the great snowy plains in the north. After that, he walked into the mirage and flew for thousands of miles, nearing the Water Taoist faction. Within the mirage, a black-robed Dongbu Shuiying carefully examined his surroundings. The mirage reflected reality, so there was also a Water Taoist faction within the mirage. Just like in the real world, the Water Taoist faction within the mirage also had weapons, treasures, and a few figures. As Dongbu Shuiying gradually approached, the reflection of the Water Taoist faction also increased. First, it enveloped Vice Faction Head Chao. Vice Faction Head Chao. Dongbu Shuiying immediately saw Vice Faction Head Chao. Vice Faction Head Chao was still fishing. Alone barefooted, he was fishing by the lake. Although the entire snowy plains was cold all year round, the temperature within the Water Taoist faction was controllable. There were places where birds sang and flowers bloomed. There's no movement. Dongbu Shuiying observed carefully. Vice Faction Head Chao was fishing leisurely with his eyes closed. His facial muscles and expression did not show any signs of movement. He should not have noticed Dongbu Shuiying. Let's look for Faction Head Xikongyang. Faction Head Xikongyang should be here. At the very least, he should have a battle chi clone here. Dongbu Shuiying continued advancing. His personal detection range was only 1,000 miles. Strictly speaking, it was 1,000 miles in diameter. It was only 500 miles away from him. As he got closer, the range of the Water Taoist faction became larger and larger. Finally, on a mountain peak within the Water Taoist faction, Xikongyang sat cross-legged. His entire body was as dazzling as the sun. According to the records of the demigod list, there were a total of 4 demigods who had condensed a true deity heart in the entire Xia people's world. Among the humans there were only 2. One was the faction head of the Water Taoist faction, Xikongyang. The other was the Black-White Deity Mountain's Mountain Lord He. Thus, in Dongbu Shuiying's test, Xikongyang and Mountain Lord He were the 2 most important figures. The 2 of them had condensed a true deity heart. In terms of realm, the strongest of the 5 demon generals might only be on par with them. Dongbu Shuiying was also carefully observing Xikongyang's every movement. His facial muscles and expression, as well as the fluctuations of his aura. There's no change at all. Dongbu Shuiying was shocked and pleasantly surprised. Faction head Xikongyang is at least a few hundred kilometers away. He can't sense me in the mirage. Dongbu Shuiying understood after thinking about it. A few hundred kilometers away, thus, he could only rely on the laws of profound mysteries. He grasped to sense the world to sense Dongbu Shuiying. As for Dongbu Shuiying, he was in the mirage and there was no intense battle going on. To rely on one's own laws of profound mysteries to sense a life form within the mirage was an extremely difficult task. If one could be sensed so easily, experts who grasped hold of the mirage would not be called the most terrifying assassins. Unless the difference in realm was too great, or if the other party's laws of profound mysteries were able to suppress the mirage, it would be very difficult for others to discover the assassin hiding within the mirage before he acted. As expected of the true meaning ranked last amongst all grade 2 true meanings, Dongbu Shuiying sighed inwardly. Its power was indeed weak, not even comparable to a grade 3 true meaning. But in other aspects it was heaven-defying. There was a saying in the deity world that one would rather fight other grade 2 true meaning experts than those who grasped hold of the true meaning of mirage. This kind of expert who hid within the mirage was too sinister, and was most suited to be an assassin. Faction head Sikong Yang's realm is already very high. I'm afraid that most of the 5 demon generals can't even compare to him. Dongbo Shuang thought, but before that, I'll have to find Mountain Lord He. He's the number 1 expert under the heavens. Xiao. Walking within the mirage, he flew at high speed and silently left. Within the Water Taoist faction, Chao Qing and Sikong Yang did not sense him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.